All right. Well, look, I'm just gonna kick it off from here. I know we're 15 minutes in already, so my apologies for the delay. Thank you to everyone who's been able to join and attend. I wanted to start this off first and foremost by thanking all of you men. So I wanted to thank all of you as the participants first and foremost, and I also want to thank all of our special guests today. So we've got Terrence Pop, we've got Joker, we've got Sandman, we've got Better Bachelor, we've got Chris in here just facing some technical issues. Chris can too. And at this point in time, we don't have any further guests. I am expecting Undead Chronic as well. So that's really it, you know. So we've all banded together today. I sent an email out to all of these incredibly generous gentlemen, and they've all responded straight away saying that they were in.
Wait, I thought there was checks for this. Oh.
Yeah, only in the five figures, right?
Yes, right.
That's all right.
So yeah, I just wanted to say a massive thank you to you guys, just first and foremost, before anything else, and just give you my acknowledgement and my appreciation straight off the bat. So also a massive thank you to the sponsors that have made this happen. The biggest sponsor was Tony and Joel, and we also had Stacy and someone else. Yeah, I said Stacy. It was actually 25. One of the four major sponsors up until yesterday was a female. She's actually a lesbian over in the US who
I know who that is. Yes,
who is sick of dating women. So
Doesn't matter who you are.
You know, she gets it. She gets it.
Yeah.
You know, look, and this is not today going to be a woman bashing session. This is not going to be ripping on them. Look, there's going to be a bit of banter for sure. But this is more about helping you guys, because I know that this is crazy times right now. I know that we have challenges right now. Some people are thriving in their industries, which are pumping due to this coronavirus outbreak. But a lot of people are at home, including a bunch of us that are actually running this session today. So yeah, Ezra, my brother, thank you as well. A good friend of mine. He's also contributed to this. So Tony, Ezra, Joel, and Stacy. All right, now that I've covered that off, I just wanted to also give a special mention to a gentleman who couldn't make it today. His name's Kenneth Jolivet. He wrote Society Kills Men. It's a book. You can check it out online. I'm going to give all you guys a plug for all your books, like Coach Your Book, De-Evolution, and The Free Agent Lifestyle. And, you know, I'm going to go let all you guys give a spiel at the end on how people can support all of you individually. But yeah, he's currently writing some children's books for boys to help them, you know, I guess understand that it's okay to be a boy and that it's totally normal and that that's how it should be. So, all right, house rules. I've gone through them. I'm not going to go through them again. Just wanted to read a quick post to everybody, and it really encompasses the reason why part of the reason why I'm doing this today. This was written, love him or hate him. I know some of you aren't a fan, but this was a very poignant post that he put the other day, Paul Elam, on his social media. It says, a note from for the ladies from Dr. Paul. I've been hearing women say far too long now that when it comes to talking about problems, and I quote, I don't want him to fix my problems. I just want him to listen to me. I just want to be heard. Ladies, I don't know what 10-cent self-help rag you read that in, but it's total bullshit. Look, men solve problems. It's what we do. It's what we've always done. Expecting us to listen to you drone on for 45 minutes about shit you have no intention of resolving isn't only a complete waste of time, it's downright rude. Men don't listen to each other wallow in problems. We identify what's wrong and go to work on a plan to set it right. Once we figure out that the man we're listening to is just jabbering about something with no interest in fixing it, we lose interest right away. Said jabberer will find himself without an audience and quickly. Any self-respecting man will do the same with you. And you know what? That's exactly the right response. So the next time you want to hold a man hostage to your endless stream of complaints du jour, do yourself a favor and especially him a favor. Take that shit to your girlfriends, have her bring your own Kleenex party and go to town. Try your best to outwine each other, and whatever you do, don't try to fix any of it. That would spoil the moment. But when you do get ready to actually do something about the things that bother you, the man in your life will be happy to be there for you. Like I said, it's what we do. Solutions, they're a man thing, right? And I think all of us can resonate with that. You know what? We've just got another special guest that's about to duck in, and I'm gonna bring him into the mix without announcement. Particular gentleman that I wasn't expecting to pop in today, but I'm glad he did. Entrepreneurs in Cars is in the box, so if you'd like to pop your hand up, I'd be happy to help you have you join in this. So it would be a pleasure to have you. Cool. So
what
friend,
you were just explaining there is the second N word. One is a bad one. The second one is a nagger. It's a married woman.
Actually, there's another good word, and it starts with an N and ends with an O. You know, the most powerful word in the English language. I talk about it a lot. So yeah, guys, let's kick it off. I'm going to start with the question that I had from my friend Tony. Now he's been a very generous donation for today to make this happen, and he was hoping to get some insight from you guys so that he could potentially, work through one of the challenges that he's facing right now. Someone I only met a very short time ago, but he's actually a really good guy. So what I'll do is I'm gonna ask in this order: Coach, Joker, Terrence, and Sandman, your insights on this, and then I'm gonna give my 3 minutes worth. So I'll time this, and I'll let you guys know when it's almost time, and we'll keep that format for any questions that kind of go throughout the process of this session. How's that sound?
Good.
Sounds good.
Cool. All right. So I'm struggling. He says, I'm struggling with what I'm doing with my life at the moment, especially with not being able to do the things I normally get to do, like training. Maybe this donation will get someone to ask a question that could help me out with that. How do you have purpose when you can't do the things you normally do, like work or train? Also, how do I avoid the anxiety that comes with a broken routine? Coach.
Yes, indeed. Well, listen, we got a lot of men right now. They're kind of lost in their sense of purpose since we've been put away in our little box and trying to figure out some things. But a couple of things about that. And mainly, I don't know why we keep seeing Pop. Is this why we seeing Pop on the screen the whole time?
He must have his mic going on and off.
Yeah.
So Pop, feel free to mute and unmute yourself, guys, if you see yourself keep popping up during this.
But one of the things that men have to understand is that we're entering into a new time. We've been talking about this in the Red Pill community, that and I've been talking about it specifically, there's going to be an event that comes along that kind of puts everything back into context. But along with that, some guys are lost in terms of the relationship aspect, right? So they are having to find their way out of the relationship and use that time to repurpose themselves. This is the same opportunity. So you might not have your gym, you might have some depression, especially if you're used to being outside and working. Well, you don't have that now. This is a perfect time to redirect that, recreate yourself, put yourself back out there in a better place. Once we return back to whatever normal that is, whatever the normal society is at that point, when we get there, you have to make sure you're prepared well in advance. So hopefully, guys, I know a lot of guys, you're stuck inside. You might be swiping on dating apps trying to find some sort of purpose to, at least talk to women. But what you should be doing is putting your time into doing the best that you can to prepare yourself for your new normal. This might go on for another month or two. And some people don't understand it. They don't accept it. They want to be optimistic about it. And, I'm certainly not the best optimistic person. However, you have to accept the conditions that we're in. And if he's in this condition after day 10, he's got to understand there could be 60 more days of this. And this is your opportunity in this 60 days to redirect yourself, repurpose yourself, so that when we come out of this, you're ahead full steam. So I get it. I understand where he is.
Let me just hop in here, Sydney, or you want to call us
Go for
out?
it. No, go for it. I mean,
All right.
yeah, if you guys feel the flow, just go with it.
Right on. Well, when you look at somebody, take for example, someone that's been put in prison as a great example, their life has been taken away from them. But what are they doing while they're in there? Number one, they're educating themselves, looking up things online, reading books about ego, about ways to understand other people and how they think, understanding what's bothering you and what's on your mind, and learning how to process that is a big portion of it. The other thing is, obviously, when you're in a 5 foot by 5 foot cell or whatever else, is there are ways that you can still work out. Now, whether you have a chin-up bar over the doorway, or whether you get down and do what they call a prison push-up or prison sit-ups, which is starting with doing 10 push-ups and then 10 sit-ups and then 9 push-ups, 9 sit-ups, 8 push-ups, 8 sit-ups. I don't know who you are, but that will wear you out. There are ways to still get that energy burnt off of you. But in the same token, you also have to look at life is, especially for men, life is not going to be a smooth transition all the way through. And the more times that you come up against things that are adverse and things that make you have to think on your feet and things that are going to have to make you change your direction, the more nimble you're going to be, the more you get used to it, the more you kind of get where if something big happens, you can go, man, I just got to roll with the punches. And so take this opportunity to find ways, be specific about what's bothering you. I feel alone. Look up ways that you can maybe work past that. I can't work out. Look at things that you can do in the small confining space that you're in to take care of that. Look at things that will specifically solve your specific problem. And the more you get used to doing that, the more you'll be able to learn how to navigate it and still be in your comfort zone.
Cool. By the way, guys, so like Coach and anyone else who's just muted themselves, just raise your hand back up so I can unmute you at the end of the session, just so that it brings back up to the top of the list for me. Makes it a lot easier to manage. Cool. So if the other co-hosts can raise their hand with the mute, there we go. No, not anyone who I've invited, like your Sandmans and your Jokers and whatnot. If you've muted yourself, put your hand back up. But anyone else, just leave your hand down until it's question time. All right. Go ahead, Sandman.
Yeah, I think with working out, when I was younger in high school, I'd go and hit the gym at lunch, but I also had my own gym at home. So, I mean, there's nothing wrong with buying some equipment, buying some weights. You can get stuff for like $200-300, put it in your house, put it in your spare bedroom, put it in your living room, wherever you need to use it, and do it that way. Another thing to deal with regards to purpose, always have more purpose than you can accomplish. That's something that I've always found valuable. Because, I mean, if I can't do something, well, I got something else I want to do. I mean, my life is pretty much the last maybe 5-10 years been about picking the things that I really want to do. And there's so much I want to do and I can't do it all. And I have regrets in terms of not being able to accomplish everything I want to accomplish. And if you can do that and then, life shrinks a bit, then you have no problem. You don't have to worry about it.
Absolutely. Yeah, so I guess for me, I love what you said right there, Sandman. Have more purpose than you can achieve, right? And I guess that's really the tough bit, right? Getting to that point where you actually have more purpose than you can achieve, like that's tough, like that's a challenge.
But you have to do more and more of these things like voyages of self-discovery. You have to put yourself outside your comfort zone. You got to try new things, and you'll find along the way there's a lot of things you like, and then you'll have that toolbox full of things that you really enjoy doing, and that's it.
Yeah, 100%. And I think that's really the key, because if you kind of go in and you go, well, everything that I've been doing, is like, well, I don't have that anymore, and so what's next, right? Something that
I was trying to get in.
What's that?
Pop was trying to get in. He had his hand up.
RAD. Let's let Redonkulous in.
No, it's Joker.
JOK. Here we go. Sorry, I can't see the.
No worries.
When I say raise, by the way, when I say raise your hand, there's actually a little button on your Zoom program there.
Let me just jump in and quickly say there is going to be a point where a lot of you guys may end up losing work during this point, and it's not something that you were planning on. So when something like that happens, maybe it's now a time that you are forced to stay at home and you're not allowed to do what you were doing. Maybe it's time now is a good time to take some self-assessment and say, all right, if I'm going to go in a different direction or I want to go in a different direction, can I do so now? I mean, it's going to be maybe in some cases a forced fresh start. So maybe this is a good opportunity to decide to wipe all the chess pieces off the board, set it up new, and start from scratch again.
Yeah, absolutely. Now we have Hammerhand back, so I'd love to get your 3 minutes on this, man.
Well, I apologize for coming in late here. I had a setting here on the code. It was incorrect, so I had to go in there and tear it up. Can you hear me?
I can hear you clearly.
Outstanding. First off, I want to say big thank you to everybody that showed up for this. I think that it's very important. And in this very trying time, it's going to be us, you and I, and everybody else that looks like us, that's going to be counted on to keep the world going. I happen to work in one of those fields, and along with medical workers, food suppliers, people that keep the parts chains going, we got trying times. Like these guys were saying, if you're losing work and you're being put in a position that you're unaccustomed to, it's a very good time for self-reflection. How did you get here? Why are you here? What could you have done better to make your life go smoother during these kinds of times? I look around me, I'm good. I've got food, I've got ammunition, I've got guns, I've got water, I've got everything that I need. I've got enough to last me for 6 months. Probably should be a year. That doesn't mean that you're a full-on lunatic or a prepper, man. And I don't consider preppers or people that think that way to be lunatics. I mean, you only have to have eyes to see and ears to hear to understand what's going on out here.
Yeah, absolutely.
I think it's also important to stay one step ahead of this thing. I heard about, I won't say the word. I heard about it at the end of January. And then I was preparing and people looked at me like I was absolutely insane. What's he doing? He's buying like 3 months worth of food, 6 months. What is he doing? Like, what is this? And over time, in terms of like preparing, I thought I was always one step ahead. And then once the market started to fall, I went and tried to get some more precious metals. And the precious metals dealers, I got the last little bit I could find, and then it all disappeared. I think, sure, losing income is a bad thing, but you have to worry about losing your life savings too. I think a lot of people haven't really been thinking about that. And you've got to really, like, a lot of people are like, I'm going to ride out the market. And I'm like, well, if this goes on for 2 years, can you ride out the market? And my feeling is that governments around the world, they're going to help certain people pay their mortgages and their rent, and so they're going to help out small businesses. But a lot of people have to prove that they're under hardship. So the government's going to say, well, you got money in this bank account, you got to spend that first before we give you anything. So I think a lot of people need to really be aware of that and not think, oh, the government's going to rescue me even though I have assets in the bank. They're going to just give me assets to replace what I'm spending. That may not be the case. No. And I think a lot of people need to be worried about that. And I think if this goes on for a couple of years, it's going to be a huge wealth transference, because like the government in the United States is already talking about allowing people to sell their retirement funds. And if people have to spend their retirement fund over the next 2 years, what happens after 2 years? A lot of their IRAs are going to be completely cleared out, and a lot of people are going to be completely broke. So I think, just try to stay one step ahead of this. And that's all I got to say.
And they're going to be completely dependent on Big Daddy as well.
It's what they want. In many cases, it makes you wonder, doesn't it?
That's correct.
Yeah, exactly right. So I guess the other thing I was going to say, just to finish off, I know we kind of went on a little bit of a direction, and everything that everyone said is very valid, and I think it's really cause for reflection. But with respect to not being able to go to the gym, one thing that a lot of people don't think of when the gym is unavailable is calisthenics, which is essentially using your body weight. For anyone who doesn't know how that's spelled, it's CALISTHENICS. And all you got to do is just jump online and do a super quick search online, DuckDuckGo, Google, wherever it is that you want to go, to find, calisthenics exercises for beginners, intermediate, advanced, and all of these things, including pull-ups, which you were mentioning before, I think.
Planks, there's a lot of core exercises that you can do. There's plenty of things that you can do. I mean,
100%.
Without very much equipment. So
that's exactly right. Exactly right. So I guess that's what I'll finish up on with that. Now, another thing that I wanted to talk about, I know that I'm opening Pandora's box here. I know that we're going to go on a tangent here, but I'm just going to ride this wave with you guys. So, what do you foresee is the changing phase? What's next for us as a society and as men? Let's keep it to 5 minutes each, and we can rotate our 5 minutes. Start with you, Coach.
Oh, it's on me. Okay, so I'm the prognosticator. I call myself Coach Adamas every now and then, but I'm not saying anything that's pretty much not what other people have been talking about here in this particular red pill idea. I think that people should buckle down for the next year or two. This is going to be pretty much a dynamic change on what we've been conditioned, especially as older men. We've been through this. So we've been through 9/11. We've been through Y2K. All right. We've been through the recession in 2008. So we were able to recreate ourselves. And once you're able to do that, that's fine. In terms of relationships, a lot of us would love to think that women are going to just return to the kitchen and they're going to just dynamically change their opinion. They're going to do that now. Mm-hmm. They're doing that now. They're going to hit everybody up and text message and all that stuff. And for them, it's about security. Whatever it's going to provide them security in whatever time of comfort or discomfort, that's what's going to happen. But I won't see a dynamic change because once we come out of this, they're going to forget that. And that's why I tell guys to have a long memory. They're going to forget all of that stuff, and they'll find their safety net. And a lot of you guys right now, I call them monkey simps. They're going to impregnate someone. They're going to take one in. They're going to marry one. And then when times of comfort come, they're going to come back and claim their independence. So you just have to be prepared for that. This is why we try to educate men as much as possible. Going forward, if you look at the next 5 years, we'll be right back where we were probably on March 1st, okay, before everybody really recognized the threat that we were in. So 5 years should clean it up, but I think the next 2 years will be it'll be tight, because if you remember 2008, when that recession hit, a lot of people in 2005, I worked in mortgage. I left coaching, worked in mortgage for about 6 months. So I saw people doing all of these home loans, and I'm like, this is ridiculous. They were doing stated income, stated asset. They didn't have to prove anything. So, of course, the housing market, the prices appreciated like crazy, and everybody thought it was going to be that for 10 years. Well, some people recognized that was not going to be the case, and they tucked away a little bit, and they were able to ride out. In 2010, they were fine. Well, the normal person, it took them to at least 2012 to recreate themselves and get themselves back to stability. Same thing with these guys. We talk about the preppers and we make fun of them, but I guarantee you by about 2021, we'll be fine. We'll be ready to march forward. I think the regular person who didn't go to the grocery store, all right, who didn't prepare, who used their retirement, who had to depend on the big daddy government, they're going to be in for the shock of their lives, and it's going to take them 2 or 3 years to dig out of it. That's what I see.
100%. Yeah.
I'll since I'm next anyway, I'll piggyback on that and just say that, part of the problem that it'd be nice, and I even said this in the last couple of videos, it's nice to think and imagine that all of a sudden, as Coach said, that, we're going to be supported and we're going to be looked at as the strong providers, and we work through all the tough times and so on and so forth. But in a lot of, and I don't remember the specific European countries, but there were women that were marrying the men of the enemy that had conquered them. I mean, we've all said it many, many times. Women don't run the race with you. They wait at the finish line and marry or try to get with the winner. I think the same thing is going to happen here. Now that they're a little bit scared, they're going to be latching on, and we can all have the jokes about the posts out there. But the truth of this is, when it's over, They're going to go right back to try to better themselves, to get ahead of the game. They're going to swing right up to the next guy that's a little bit better, a little bit more money, a little bit more comfortable. And so I don't think there's going to be a change. The nice thing is none of us are really going to be affected by what's going on. You can feel a little more appreciation, and you can rub a little bit of salt and a few more wounds. But the truth of it is nothing's really changed when it comes to us. Now, the other thing, and I think most of the gentlemen that are on here now as hosting, at least, most of us are a little bit older. I know that you're a little bit younger, Sydney, but a lot of us, you can be a prepper for 3 to 6 months with some gear in your house. But what you should be doing, especially if you're a guy in your 20s or 30s or even early 40s, is being a prepper with your finances. Okay, so right now, and I talk about it, and there's a couple of shots here and there, but I got an old school bus out there I'm building. How can I do this without having to work? Because I saved and invested for decades for this. You can't just wake up one day and say, I'm going to run around the world. So prepping comes to your income, your salary, your savings, your long-term investing. You've got to get all of that ready. And it's easy to not do when you're in your 20s or your 30s because you say, hey, I've got forever. Well, what happens if you ran into this and you hadn't done anything? Now you are the same as everybody else, hoping you can get some money from the government, hoping you have enough to buy some groceries, and you have no advantage over everybody else. But if you prepare for your future, both financially and with your well-being, then when something like this happens, for me, literally the only difference is I don't go to the store and shop. I shop online now. Other than that, nothing's changed. So plan ahead for any contingency. But if you have enough finances behind you, it makes all of that planning that much easier.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Being ready for financial issues. If you look at what's happening with currencies, if the markets go down, there could be some sort of currency crisis. So I think it's not just a matter of getting your finances in order, but it's also about having actual money, which is gold and silver to some extent, maybe 5%, maybe 10% of your net worth and something like that. Because we definitely are entering a period where if this goes on for a couple of years, you're going to see a lot of women pushing the government. They're going to be pushing for more government. And then I fear that we're going to head towards communism. And I mean,
be the boogaloo.
Yes.
Yeah. So I mean, this happens every 4 generations. We're entering this period. There's these 2 authors, Lowe and Howe. They talk about the 4th turning, and they talk about every 4th generation has a crisis situation that they deal with. The last time was the Second World War. Before that was the Civil War. Before that was the Revolutionary War. So I completely agree with Pop when he's been talking about this for the last couple months in a lot of videos. So, I mean, look at Pelosi. She's trying to push for digital cash. So no more cash. Nancy. So, I mean, I think Pop can jump in if he wants.
Well, I am a proponent for the United States. I am not a fan of socialism nor communism. Not only does it not work financially or economically, but it also fails the human race in the cost of lives, pain, and suffering every single time. Okay, with that, and on a side note, I am a strict capitalist, but I can see where we're having a problem with some of these super corporations having just a little bit too much influence over the people who run the show up at the White House and in the Senate and the House. That's a problem. So, I mean, if I know there's a lot of guys out there who will not sit down or stand by idly and allow communism to take over without, there being either a small, medium, or major amount of bloodshed and turmoil. Just saying.
The good thing is that typical commies have small body volumes.
Under chronic.
That much blood loss, right? You know, assume the average commie is like 110 pounds. So
they got no food. You just got to wing them and they'll bleed out.
Yeah. And then for the last guy about the workout thing, I didn't get a chance to speak. I was having some problems with my microphone.
Yeah, I'm gonna let you double up on your time on that one, just to throw in your
Just
2
gonna
cents
go
worth.
back real quick. Like I used to be a high functioning individual physically. You know, every 6 months in special operations, you had to pass this rigorous, test, and if you didn't make it, you're out. And and I also fought professionally. I worked my way up to a shot at a world title in the FFKA. I was an FFKA belt. I lost in the 10th round TKO. But when you work out that hard for that long, when you all of a sudden take it away, you find yourself spiraling down into the well of depression. I have to figure out ways to take myself to that level once in a while to dig myself out of the depression hole, because your body gets used to the endorphins of working out so at a high level, and all of a sudden that's taken away. It's really hard to replace. And that's the challenging part, is finding a way to replace that.
Yeah, well, that's the exact challenge that Tony is facing right now. So I really appreciate you actually, because I don't know if any of the other guys in the box right now have been at the level of performance that Pop has, but that's definitely something that, I've never been at the elite level that you have, Pop, so I can't speak from that experience, but I really appreciate you doing so.
Anytime.
So who haven't we heard from in this one? We haven't heard from me yet, have we?
Yeah, who cares?
All right. Well, I'm going to jump in because I've got some very interesting insights, and I've been doing. I've been on the phone for hours and hours and hours collectively to different people, just sort of going on philosophical tangents. And I guess the conclusion that I've personally come to is that, look, the world's never going to be the same again. We are going to move more towards working from home models, because particularly as companies coming out of this are going to go, man, I don't know when the next one of this kind of shit's going to hit. So how do we mitigate against this cost-wise? How do we build up the bank? And by building up the bank, we're also building up our net worth and creating confidence in us. So we're the ones that people buy into when something like this happens again, to give us more capital to recover. So I'm kind of going like 10 steps ahead. Like, what's possible? Like, what are the possible repercussions of this? And I like to call this consequential thinking. And what I see is that as a lot of places start to implement more working from home, and for example, NRMA, who's an insurer in Australia, they've already started doing it. They've been doing it for a while now. It's been very successful. But you're going to get a lot of companies start to get lazy. And a lot of these companies, particularly smaller ones, are going to go, well, you're working from home now. You've got a laptop, right? Yeah, I've got a laptop. Yeah, no worries. Just use your laptop. That's fine. They lose the control over their intellectual property the moment that their intellectual property is hosted on another person's hardware. If that hardware is infected with viruses, that's potentially massive breaches. I think cybersecurity is going to be the next industry that's going to explode. And if there's anyone watching right now that does enjoy technology, that does enjoy coding, that thinks that potentially this might be a real opportunity for them to get into something like this, I would definitely suggest get into coding, because I think that's going to be the next massive industry. I also think that if you get into fitness and personal training, that is going to be another industry, because right now, if we keep going down this path, there's going to be a huge amount of people that are going to be becoming obese. Right? And right, you think
there already is, man. I mean,
Fat
60% of Americans, and probably the same thing with Aussies and everyone in the UK, 60% are already overweight.
But this is my point, right? Like, you think it's bad now? Wait to see what happens when everyone's working from home. When everyone's like, because no one's getting even a base level of exercise. They're not walking to work. They're not walking from work. They're not walking to or from the bus. They're not doing the quick 50-meter run to catch that next bus. They're not doing the little quick shuffle down the escalators, feet running to get to the next train, right? No one's thinking about this.
Well, Sydney, let me ask you this while you're thinking about this, though. With telecommuting and all that, Now, so with cybersecurity, I can see the difference because corporations obviously may be American and want to only use American workers with security clearance when you're working on delicate things. But look what they've done with AT&T, a lot of the cell phone, the cable companies, where you pick up a phone for customer service and you're dialing over to India. So if more and more things are going to go to working remote, what keeps all of this stuff from going overseas? And poof, it's gone, and they're paying somebody instead of an engineer for 80 grand, they're paying an engineer over there in India for 30, because that happened at my company that was working on network and things like that. I would actually counter that. I think, and not to disagree with you, but if you really want to kind of make yourself safe in all scenarios, you need hands-on. What is a hands-on job that pays well? A plumber, if you work for yourself, if you work for somebody else, they get paid $100 an hour. Now, maybe as a plumber, you keep $40 of that, and the 60 goes to your boss. But when you own your own business, you get 100 out of 100, minus bills and all that stuff. Plumbers, electricians, welders, mechanics, the things that require hands-on, they're not the most glamorous jobs. However, since everybody's been running off to college thinking that that's the escape because you're supposed to get great dream jobs with any degree, the truth is there's a shortage in the blue-collar jobs, and I think they're going to come back because they're the ones that can't get shipped out. And as such,
correct,
you're going to get paid well for that too.
Actually, look at blue-collar jobs. I think what's deterring a lot of guys from getting involved in them is that it's hard to find a mate when you're doing a blue collar job because women don't seem to want plumbers and electricians.
That's right.
So, and I've seen videos and articles about this woman in New York, and she's a lawyer. She makes, I don't know, about 60, 70 grand a year. And she says she has to settle for a guy who makes $130,000 a year as a plumber. So, when you hear stories like that, I mean, what do you say to that?
Well, the challenge is, though, let's think about this. I'm a plumber, but I make more than her. I'm not good enough because she's higher educated. Okay, I've got a gender studies degree that's very similar to hers, but I make nothing. Well, I'm not good enough for her. I have to have a better education as well as have more money, as well as be 6 foot tall and muscles. And by the time you start really doing all this, by the time you can really find one, you say, whoo, boy, I had to work really hard to get her. How long are you good for anyway? 5-6 years till she files on you like 70% of the other women and walks away with half your money and your kids? That's why, and many times, that you either give up all of you to try to get a woman, or you say, I'm going to do what I want with the understanding that no matter what you do, it'll never be good enough. So you're either going to end up backing yourself into a corner, being frustrated and angry and hating the world because you've done everything right, yet you can't get this girl. Or you can just say, you know what? Screw it all. I'm going to do me. And let's face it, if you're Chad enough or whatever, and you got the right attitude, that's still going to get women. So you may not get a spouse, you may not get a family, you may not get kids if you're a plumber, but in the same token, if you're in athletic shape and you're even halfway decent looking and you got a couple nickels to rub together and you're happy and you're in a good place mentally, that'll get you as many short-term women as anything else will. So maybe don't worry about the long-term dating. And I'm a big advocate of 6 months and you're out no matter what. So worry about what you want to do in life, chase your dreams, your money, your hobbies, do everything you want, and you'll bump into one and you have a little bit of fun and then you keep moving on your path. But worrying about what everybody's going to do or what women are going to think of you, if you choose X or Y or Z, it's a dead end. Every time it's a dead end.
You're 100% on the money.
Those people that they take what women think of them as the Chads, right? I'll walk in the room and go, oh, I fucked 3 Asian freaks last night. I'm just worth that much more. You're basing your value off what bitches think. Do people actually think what bitches think is worth anything? No, it's not. So, you get a lot of shaming, at least on the internet. It's the whole, you're an incel, you're a virgin. The whole
Who
thing.
hurt
It's like,
you?
well, I've smashed and dashed enough. At some point, it's just like, you're doing backflips, you're holding the chick sideways. I'm just doing it for my own form at this point. But it's not something you want to base your life off of. And if you don't have a goal behind you, like a fire within you, what's your de facto thought? What are most dudes going to do? Oh, I want to go get pussy. And either they don't get it and get super pissed, they get upset, or they do get it and they realize at the end of the road, man, that just wasn't worth it.
Yeah, and I mean, I'm starting to see a lot of this, you know, as you're saying. I think the best thing to do, you know, as a lot of you have already mentioned, focus on yourself, work on yourself, build yourself. Don't sacrifice what's important to you for the sake of potentially having a girlfriend or having sex or dating someone. You know, do focus on what's really important to you. Because if you don't do that, then there's just literally no point. And you're also, if you're focusing too much on the partner that you're with, if you do decide to date, here's the thing. How many of you have noticed, as you're with someone for a long time, the longer and longer you're with them, the more sweet, the more compliant you tend to be with. It's just a natural inclination that I've noticed that guys have, including myself, you know, when I've been in relationships. And I think to understand that becoming too compliant and too much of I'll do whatever you want to do. If you take too much of that approach, then you're lowering your market value. But
it's a natural gap that occurs every time.
It is a natural gap, but guys need to be conscious of this gap and prevent that from happening, because that's, in my view, what I see is the demise of relationships. Like a good buddy of mine, his name's Stand Up Man. He talks about this in one of his books, the betification scale. And essentially what that is, right? So the perfect dynamic, in my view, that I've witnessed time and time again is where the male is the alpha and the female is in the feminine. That's not to say that the female can't, you know, be great at her job and be in a high-powered position, whatever. Like that's fine. You know, I know a lot of women who are, and they're very successful, and that respect to them, you know, respect to anyone who can hold it down at that level, right? But when you actually get to a point where you start to become less alpha, then you start to fail the shit tests, which make them frustrated on a subconscious level. They don't even realize it. This is the dynamics of men and women, right? And then she starts to take up the slack. Before you know it, she's the alpha and you're the beta. You're the beta.
Well, I can tell you why that happens, at least in my opinion, why that happens, is that over time, and I've got videos upon videos of this, women naturally lose interest. The longer that you date them, the longer you're living with them, the longer that you're married with them, there's no surprises. The butterflies and the excitement and the tingles, they don't count anymore. Then on top of this, let's say you take her to McDonald's and she wants better. So you take her to, I don't know, the next restaurant above that. Pretty soon you can go to the fanciest place in town, night after night, but that's still not good enough. You need more change. You need more original. You need more. And it's always looking for something new and something entertaining. But it's because she's figured you out. The minute a woman figures you out, they're bored. So the only way you get away from that is and once they get bored, they get less interested. And what do they do when they get less interested? They start to drift away. And as that gap happens, the man can feel that. He feels that she's not as attractive, and he starts grasping at straws, trying to do more and more and more for her to pull her back in. And inadvertently, all he's doing is pushing her away. That's why, at least for me personally, it's a point of no return where you have to now put down a mountain where a new guy can just put down a pebble because he's unknown and mysterious and interesting and sexy and dynamic, and she doesn't know anything about him. So you have to move mountains as the known man, where a new guy can just come along and barely do anything. That's why short term works so well, because you don't get into that her pulling away, because you're never there long enough that she's figured it out. How many times have you noticed that? And sorry, I'll stop here. I know I'm rambling on, but how many times have you noticed that the girls you're not interested in are the ones that stick around through everything? It's because you're not putting any effort in. But the ones you love and do everything for, they run. It's because you're moving towards them instead of holding your place. And if they start to separate, you toss them.
That is 100% correct. 100%
I think for guys,
correct.
we have to not care, and women have to care. But over time, we care more, and they care less.
Yep.
And then we have to kind of fight our own nature. So even if as a guy you're fighting your own nature and you're not giving into the temptation to become a nice guy simp mangina, it doesn't mean that the woman is not going to give into her nature to become, to want to dominate that relationship more and actually start to care more about what's going on. So, I mean, you don't, it's not just, it's like two moving bullets, right? If they're not moving in the same direction, but if you're still moving in the direction you originally started in, but she moves in a different direction, I mean, you can't control what direction she's going to move in. So it's just too many variables for it to last long term.
It's like the truck driver who puts the homeless girl through college, and then when she becomes a law professor, she doesn't want to be with someone who's a truck driver.
She deserves someone better.
Exactly.
I had a friend that happened to, and it wound up costing him his life.
Fuck. That's unbelievable.
Well, one of the things I think that we have to remember, we're at some point in 2 years, 5 years, we're going to be considered so ahead of the curve because a lot of the people you're talking about are going to figure this out, but they're figuring it out now, right? They're getting this education about women and relationships and all this stuff, and they're Googling information like all of us did, and we ended up at Sandman's channel, right? At one point, we had to figure out what was going on, and we started Googling things, and this is how a lot of men arrived, because if you typed in MGTOW, that's what came up first. But there are going to be men that are going to try to figure out their way. Colleges are going to start not being an option for them. They're going to start looking at IT. They're going to look at blue collar careers, and women aren't going to want them, or their wives will divorce them. A lot of men will be married and lose their jobs now and have to find a new way, and they'll get divorced. So when they come to our content, we're going to be so ahead of the curve that we're mind blowing. Remember the first time you heard like Tom Likas or Pop, all of us, when we heard it, it was like mind blowing, and we forget it because we do this every day. But a lot of guys are coming in this next year or two, and they are going to be where we were 2 years ago or 5-10 years ago, depending on who you are. So we got to remember that and be able to provide answers for them.
All roads to happiness go through MGTOW.
But there's a lot of danger with regards to what age you actually get this information given to you at. I mean, I don't know if you've been listening to Spetsnaz and Human. They did a talk recently where they were talking about guys getting this information while they're still in their mid to late teens, and then they become completely nihilistic and they stop caring about life. I mean, I got it at the right time, which was, my mid 30s. I wish I'd got it at my mid to late 20s because that would have been the best possible time. But you can't control when you're going to kind of discover this information. Right. And I think we kind of have to figure out what the consequences are going to be of 18, 19-year-olds learning about MGTOW and then, starting to give up on life entirely. I mean, how is society going to deal with that? How are they going to deal with that? Anyone want to pipe in on that?
Well, I think the tough bit is right now that guys are already being force-fed bad experiences at a much earlier age than they ever have before. Like I've got in the chat here right now, Red Talks says, by the way, thank you to Red Talks for your donation yesterday. I says there was a university that made hitting on women banned because a girl was afraid of taller men, the exact same men that the majority of everyone else is attracted to. Right. So like this is the kind of control that's being enacted upon men at a very early age. So I think we're at a point where we actually need to know this stuff. Yes, it's going to make a lot of people nihilistic, but people like us that have got the experience that can articulate how to actually work through this and how to find a good headspace and how to create the best life for ourselves. People like us are sorely needed, because without people like us, it's like, what have they got to look forward to? A lifetime of misery anyway. Like we may as well give them the right tools to help them make it through.
I try to get them at 18.
18?
Because I spent.
Hey, are you talking about guys or girls?
I try to. Quality bird. Quality bird. I'll give you that.
You're just laughing at my laugh. You can't hide it.
He started red. Oh my God!
Well,
I got him blushing on the chat.
That's so
My
good.
dream has come true.
33 years in the Army, I've seen just thousands upon thousands of guys show up right out of basic in AIT, and they just get wrecked. They just run through the ringer, and then I hear a lot of them, commit suicide. 5-10 years down the road. It's just terrible.
Well, we deal with people.
If they had the ammo, to say, oh yeah, this is actually a bad situation, I should probably not do this. maybe I could save a few more guys, you know?
Yeah, and like I understand this, and I know why it's happening. And you know, I heard Coach talk about this, I heard Sandman talk about it, I heard Chronic talk about it, I heard Pop talk about it, I heard Chris talk about it, I heard Hammerhand talk about it, I heard Sydney talk about it. You know what I mean? So this is really where I want to get to.
So Pop, what's the difference between red pilling someone at 25 versus 18, from your opinion?
Well, by 25, you've probably, you know, maybe banged out one or two kids, and you're on the hook for 18 to 21 years. You catch these guys at 18, and you say, "Hey, look, you know, before you start, you know, making any deliveries right to the warehouse, you need to be aware of what can happen to you."
Yeah, learn how to play the game early.
Yeah.
So then it depends on where they're living. Like where I'm at, people can barely afford to have kids in their late to 20s, early 30s. So they can be red pilled a lot sooner. So again, maybe you're onto something there. Maybe, you know, if they're in the military and they're in a small town or in a small base somewhere where it's relatively remote, they can't afford to have a family. So yeah, you're right. That makes total sense.
I think the small towns are even worse as well, because, you know, it's like, what else is there to do but smash, you know?
Well, if you think about it, some of the people that I've talked about it in terms of how women are trained, they know this stuff at 13, 14, 15. Like, this is their dream. Their dream is to get married, and they know at the end of the day, they could turn it on its head by just they could just say, well, I changed my mind. I met a new man. A new pebble came along, and this guy gave me a mountain. I like this pebble. So they're kind of prepared going in. We're not as prepared, because we still live under this fantasy mode. So I can get why an 18-year-old person could feel like they get an advantage by getting this information. But if they don't, we still have guys email us that are 35 years old just figuring it out. All right. So we have to figure out which one is better. All right. Is it better for a 16-year-old to get this information and at least be armed? Or is it better for us to wait until he's 35 and then writing us emails?
Well, Underdog Email got red pilled from at 16 about MGTOW, and he's 22 now, and it's helped him navigate through college. So I think that's a good thing, because college is.
Someone turn off their speaker?
Yeah, somebody's got a feedback.
Turn off that speaker, somebody.
Okay.
Hang on. Here, let me do this.
No, all good. Yeah, so I think that people do need to know about this as early as possible, especially if they're going to go to college. I mean, it might even turn them off going to college and send them down the trade route, which means them basically invincible in economic hardship, you know, relative to everyone else.
When it comes to the concern that men are going to turn to nihilism, okay, they're gonna get the red pill at some point, right? The sooner you get the red pill, it's not just the whole you're never going to get married, never going to get kids. It's the whole thing. Imagine all the guys out there who before they went to college being told, hey, you're going to take out $30,000, $40,000 a year to pay a bunch of commie professors to fund their graduate students to shove each other's butt plugs up each other, right? To get some shitty degree that they pay off. You're funding inches of butt plugs up these college professors' assholes. I saw this. Ridiculous. Like, those classes, and I see them waddling in, you know, like they're sumo wrestlers. I don't even want to know what they're doing on office hours. But I think the sooner the better. Now we have, you have like the range. Like obviously, I put my stuff as mature, but you can't really control what young men look on the internet. I mean, shit. There's a 10-year-old right now discovering hentai tentacle porn. Right now, there's thousands of them.
For sure.
You can't stop it, right? So all we can do as red pill prophets, as preachers of the round table, is just spread the good word, Buddhas, okay? That's all I got to say on that
one. 100%. Yeah,
I did a chat a while back, and there were mostly guys in their late teens, early 20s, and I was telling them, yeah, it's okay to be red pilled, in your mid 20s. And they were telling me, no, you don't understand. Things have changed, and I think a lot of us are a little bit older, and we haven't gone through that same world in 20 years. So we don't really know how bad it is out there. I mean, it's hard for us to kind of gauge what the young people are going through. So I think we need to talk to them more and kind of get some sort of like vibe or like reading off of what's going on out there.
Who's the youngest
100%.
guy in the chat? I'm mid-20s. Anybody else mid-20s younger? Is that it? Am I just a bunch of old? Am I talking to the cemetery? Am I at the cemetery talking to a bunch of old men lying in the graves? What the hell?
Actually, I'm gonna ask a question along that exact line. So, anyone in the chat, anyone who's listening right now, not one of the hosts, who is under 17, if you're 17 years old or under, raise your hand with the button at the bottom of your app right now.
Okay, calm down.
I want to have a quick chat.
You might have to find 20-something and younger.
Somebody's got 18 right there. Somebody's at
19
I saw
see
17
18.
and 20,
Okay,
22.
I'm gonna jump in.
20.
I want to find the youngest one. All right, so we've got Guillermo. Sorry if I mispronounced that.
Igor's 13. There you go. Igor Migtau.
Man.
I think he's out of Belgrade.
Chronic's 420 years old.
That's right.
I see a 16-year-old. Well, this is a 16 female. 16-year-old female.
Oh, we gotta get Yogi in the chat.
Hey, don't bring her on. Don't fall for that one. Don't bring her on. We won't get this thing will be on the nightly news in the morning. So I bring her on.
Coach Greg Adams' face right on every news channel.
The misogynist pedophile.
You guys are gonna put me up there, yeah.
He was the leader, I swear.
Oh,
Hey, don't worry.
so good.
Coach, I'd bust you out of jail before anything happened.
Yeah, please help. Please help.
Send help. Hey, by the way, guys, I was talking about stand-up men before in the betterization curve. I've actually got. He actually wrote a book. I don't know if you can see this. I don't know if it's flipped. Hopefully, it shows up okay. How to be a man. Fuck's sake. How to be a
What'd you
man.
get for using all those special effects?
What your father never taught you. So basically, this has the betterization curve that I told you about, like with the curve, and it's essentially just talking about exactly what I mentioned before. So it's a really cool visual. So, in the bad times, your sexual marketplace value as a man, particularly if you've lost your job, goes like, there's Looney Tunes comics where the Roadrunner falls off, where the coyote falls off cliff, splat. You know what I mean? And that's exactly what happens to your value if you don't know how to navigate and work through hard times like this. And retain your frame and retain your position. And this doesn't just apply to dating as well. This also applies to your workplace. It applies to your friends. It applies to your family. Because, and I jotted this down earlier because it was something that I really wanted to mention. I think now is the exact perfect time. It's just a one-liner. We need strong, dependable leaders. Who are the most strong and the most dependable leaders right now? Well, it's not the women that are fighting over toilet paper or stabbing each other over toilet paper, or spitting in police's face because they got pulled over and tried to use the excuse they were going for the corona testing, right? Like literally this happened the other day. There was a girl speeding, doing like 50K an hour over the speed limit, which is like 30 mile an hour over the speed limit in roughly a 25 to 30 mile an hour zone, which is
respectable.
Yeah. So it's like almost double the speed limit, right? And the police tried to pull her over and she tried to speed away. And when they finally got her, she's like, "Oh, I'm going to get tested for coronavirus." You know what I mean? Like
any excuse.
And then they pulled her out of the car and they got her in handcuffs. She spat in their faces multiple times. And then she ended up getting thrown to the ground. And then a bunch of white knights came over and were like, "Oh, take your hands off her. Don't touch her." It's like, really, guys? Really? You want to play that game now?
Well, to that end,
people need to do the taser dance.
Yeah, right? Well, to that end, when you guys asked about when you said raise your hands or mention your age, look at all the 20-somethings. I mean, between 20 and even 30, right? That whole 20-something age. At that age, and I know, again, most of us a little bit older than you, but Sydney, but we're still around that age. In 20s, I would have been, if it were available in my 20s, looking up game, looking up how to pick up women. How do I get these girls in my lap, right? But now times have changed. Yeah, exactly. You go into clubs, you're trying to be able to have a little bit of scratch and a fancy car and a good stereo system to get the girl's attention, right? That's how it was back in the 90s. But now look at what 20-something guys, it's not, hey, how am I going to figure this out? It's not worth figuring out, or it's not working out, or that I'm just really surprised. I would think most of the time, me personally, but one would think that you would think it'd be a bunch of burnt guys that have been here after 24 relationships that never worked out and 2 divorces and got ran through the courts and everything went bad. But it's not. It's the younger guys coming up saying they see all this stuff ahead of them, and it's a hot mess. It's a hot mess coming up. And
they're
so
becoming
saying,
nihilistic. They're nihilistic.
Exactly,
they don't care.
Exactly. Well, I don't know if it's nihilistic or it's either help me find a way to navigate through this, or how do I navigate through this? And maybe they are getting nihilistic, but the only way you can move forward if you aren't earning for a woman, providing for a woman, having a woman in your life, the only way you can is to find enough value for yourself. And I think that's what many of us at least try to do. Yeah, we have funny stories and other things too, but it's finding that value in yourself and finding that self-love and finding out what you can look forward to as you age that maybe will help. I don't know. I'd love to hear what you guys think on that.
Hey, Sandman, I want to hear what Sandman's you've been saying, people turning nihilistic. How about you expand on that? I think it'd be good for us to hear.
I mean, if you're 19 and you hear that it doesn't matter how successful you are because, she's always going to monkey branch to somebody else. And what are you going to say? You're going to be like, well, what's the point? What's the point of doing this? What's the point of achieving anything if I'm never going to be good enough? I might as well just stay home and play video games and, off myself when I get bored and melt into my lazy boy. And that's pretty much it. That's my life. So I think a lot of people, they're not really looking at the younger generation as starting off from a different point than we did. I mean, we went through the breakups, we went through the bad relationships, some of us through marriages, through children. And then we came to the realization, and then now we're trying to fix all of the things that we can fix that we still have time to fix. But a lot of these guys, they haven't even gone through the life, right? That they're saying to themselves, sex isn't even worth it. And then when they get to their mid-30s, they're going to regret not having the experiences that we went through, that we got to right now. We went through all of that. We don't regret not, having sex with all these women. We don't regret not getting married, or, we don't regret not living our lives. But they're going to have these regrets going forward because they red pilled themselves so young and they just didn't go through those same experiences. So I tell a lot of guys, I say, date when girls are in their teens and 20s. And a teenage girl is not going to entrap you for child support or, for like alimony. Now's the best time. Well,
have you been to Detroit?
I guess
well,
the Midwest, they do it
but I was telling Pop, like, it depends on the geographical area, right? So like, it depends on where you are. Like in LA, I don't think that's really going to happen quite as much, or New York, as it's going to happen in, say, Detroit. So you kind of have to assess the geography of your dick, right? Like, you can find out where.
We don't hear that on Sandman's channel that often.
Well, I got the North Pole, bitches.
But check this out. What we discount for younger men that didn't happen with us is the availability of naked women on their phone. We didn't have that. We didn't have pornography. I don't know if you guys remember where the pornography would come in on the Playboy channel, and
Playboy
the screen
was
it was all scrambled, right? And you were just trying to catch like 2 seconds worth of footage. Well, these guys seen more naked bodies in a week than we saw all in our 20s, right? We had to actually work for it.
20s? You mean all in our lives, not just
right. So they go on their Instagram, they see it, and not only that, they're able to get women in bed way easier. Like you said, Joker, you were talking about you would be learning game. Well, I mean, most young guys don't really need to learn game. They can get more ass than we were getting ever at their age. But right. What they should be learning still is they probably don't want to get into the marriage trap. That's what we would have been learning. Like, we were learning pickup, and what we didn't learn was that the marriage trap was on the way. But right. For younger guys, we tell them, and I made some videos on this. I said, your teens and your early 20s are going to be like hell, and the women have the advantage. So what you should be working up to is by age 30, 32 to change that dynamic. Now, for a 19-year-old guy to hear to age 32, that's an old ass man, right? So they're like, hell no, I ain't waiting till no damn 32 to get no peace leave, right? But at the same time, for them, if they work towards it for 10 years and build their lives up, it'll make things much easier. So this is why we don't discourage guys. Look, I don't say don't get any,
Right.
but at the same time, you should be understanding that you're at the worst possible place in terms of your advantage. But in 10, 15 years, you're going to be able to call the shots way easier.
But by the time, okay, if they don't want you up to the age of 25, then you're not attractive enough for them. So now you're going to make yourself financially attractive enough for someone that's already washed up, and then they're just going to take your shit. Like, you're telling them to like literally destroy themselves. And then what happens when they get divorced at 35? And
but I tell them to not go for that age group. So I tell them, if you're 35 and you have your life well, I don't tell you to go for a 32-year-old woman.
Yeah, you get a 25-year-old easier then.
Yeah, you go reach down and go Pop's age, 18.
But a lot of the younger women don't even want a lot of the younger women want the guys around their same age or just a little bit younger. Like, it's ridiculous out there. Like, I don't know if you've been dating in the last few years. It's just ridiculous.
You know what I'm going to say here, that I have seen a lot of people say, oh, is that old guy's, that's dirty old man, right? But then when they're attracted to you, that goes out the window.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And I just, Sandman, I just want to disagree in the fact that I am now 47. The oldest girl that I've dated, I guess in the last maybe decade or so, is 32, 31. I'm always 15 years younger.
Man, that sounds like a St. Paper slug.
And
Right.
Hey, but I'm saying,
That's an
hear me out,
old ass
though.
woman.
I'm
But
from
I'm
the
saying-
privileged position. I only date 18-years-olds. But
Well, okay,
Well,
but you're also younger though too. So you remember that when I say the oldest is 32, that also means it goes down to 24, 23, and so on and so forth. So when I was young, I was decent shape. I was decent enough looking. I had no problems. But as you get older, the physicality and the looks may not be enough. So how do you get their attention? You got to have a hell of a personality and good money. But if you keep your finances safe and you only date short term, you don't run into any of the problems. It doesn't mean you can't date and have fun and enjoy yourself. You don't have to be nihilistic, but just don't hope you're going to get married and have 2 kids and be able to keep your wife and your money forever. That's where it doesn't work out.
Hey, Joker, are you sure they didn't call you the better baker when you were younger? Because it sounds like all you were doing was making cream pies.
Hey, baby, you know it. There's a reason why I got that snip long ago, my friend.
See, it's not so much that I don't trust women, it's that I don't trust myself around them. Right? Eventually my brain starts to get saturated in its own juice and cooked. And then I just do completely irrational things. And then I'm like, what's going on? Like, why am I considering like marriage and kids with this person? I don't even like this person. What's going on? Right. So,
but how far into a relationship do you start feeling that? Is it the first couple months when you're having your fun, or is it after you've started investing with her?
It starts coming for me after like a week or two. Like, my brain, I can't stop that. Right. Like, it's
there's a very
once I have, go ahead.
Right? You are a biological machine with one purpose: to get that nut, to impregnate, right? So it's always going to be a pull, man. Right? That's why it gets up. Right? It's not getting up for a cat girl, a hentai chick. No. You're getting up to make some babies, right? So, to any guys that want kids, a flight to Saudi ain't that expensive. And you could probably pay a couple locals for a couple dollars for there, get some extra of those big duffel trash bags. Like, sorry, this ain't the real kind of, burqa. This is the American burqa, just extra trash case size. Get those bitches pregnant, right? You can get kids abroad and then take the kids back and leave the bitches abroad. It's simple facts, guys. You can do this. Oh, hell no. Absolutely.
That's fucked up.
It's statements like that can keep you getting banned off of YouTube. So there you go.
Sandman tried to warn me too. He's like, "You're gonna get banned off of doing this shit." And 5 channels later, here I am still bitching about that.
Shocking.
Where's Hammerhand? Can Hammerhand talk? Can we hear him?
Can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Yeah.
Dirty
I'm
Sampa.
just listening to the conversation, man.
Get in.
I'm just listening. I mean,
okay.
This is very entertaining.
I just look at it as play the game from the day you're 18 or 16, whatever it is, play the game until you're dead. But just know it's a game, and know you can't invest seriously, and know you can't, and know all the warning signs, and then go play. But play smart and know the rules. As long as you do that, you're okay.
And one other thing I'll say as well is, if you are building yourself and you still want to be involved with women, like, no worries, do what you got to do, right? But understand that you must protect your assets, whether that's getting it into overseas bank accounts, whether that is purchasing property overseas, whether it's having it in a trust fund that you're not the executor of, but someone that you really trust is, like your dad or someone like that, who will then pass that trusteeship onto someone else that you trust if he's not around anymore. You know what I mean? This is the kind of approach you're going to take.
I want to ask everybody, what are you guys doing to protect your assets in this situation? Like, I mean, I feel kind of like I'm falling behind trying to figure this out, the Corona Chan situation. But like, what are you guys doing? Just curiosity.
Cash and crypto is where I am right now. 10% crypto, 5% gold, silver, 85% cash, just waiting for payday or waiting for buy day. You got to wait till the knife falls. Don't catch a falling knife. Wait till the dead cat bounces, and she'll settle sometime in probably, I'd say, anywhere between 9 and 12 months, maybe 15 months. And then I'll start sniffing around for sales. That's me.
I bought Bitcoin on the dip. I would suggest to anyone who is looking to make good money in the long term, if you're looking to invest in, say, for example, something more traditional like shares, for example, buy bank shares of banks that are really suffering right now, like only the major ones, right? The ones that are not going to fall over, where they've got enough backing. Get shares in them because
the ones that will get bailed out by other bitches.
That's the thing.
Exactly.
Because we know the airline industry got bailed out. You have to look, man.
Those taxpayers fund your stock options, my boys.
Yeah.
Exactly.
I mean, everything that got bailed out, they're going to buy back again. I mean, they're kind of putting provisions for them to not do so, but they're going to buy back their own stock again, inflate it. So you got to get in now. And a lot of the airline stocks were completely depleted. I mean, there was like Spirit down to $8. I believe Delta was down to $40, maybe $30 at one particular point. But that's going to go back up. So you can look at that market. Crypto is another market. Have cash on hand, even though who knows, in 2 years, that's not going to be here. But that's the danger of having people who are dependent on the government to make the rules. And they're allowing more bigger government to come in. And they're going to accept that. Everyone's going to go run and get the vaccination. Everyone's going to go run and get the digital currency. And that's the dangers of, if you think about it, I know everybody talks about the 19th Amendment, but when you allow individuals who depend on government, you're going to get bigger government. And by virtue of that, you're going to lose control as men. It actually is going to prohibit us from doing what we know how to do best. And we're going to put it in the government's hands. That's where we're headed. And we're going to experiment with socialism and less rights and all that stuff. So you got to do what you can to protect your assets as much as possible right now.
Well, I think vaccination is going to become so
polarizing.
No. I think a lot of people are going to be like, "Fuck you, anti-vaxxers! Everyone needs to get vaccinated. Push for it."
Exactly.
And vaccination is going to become so valuable to people that it's going to become we're going to be calling it V-sleeves 12 months from now.
I mean, but we don't have
Everyone
a vaccine.
wants it.
But we don't have a vaccine for the common cold, which is a coronavirus. What if we don't have a vaccine for this? I mean, that's kind of what
they had one already. They got it. I mean, come on. I think if you're looking at this as a company, pharmaceuticals as big as they are, it'd be out of the realm of possibility to believe that they don't have anything yet.
But think about it. Wouldn't it make more sense longer term if they didn't have a vaccine? Because then they would be selling more hospital beds. They would be building more hospitals. They would be selling more antibiotics.
But they got to get kids back in school. All right. So once this all passes, they got to find a way to get the most people in line as soon as possible. They can't keep kids out of school for another year. So they're going to say once school starts in, the first guinea pigs are going to be those kids. They're not going to be able to enter the classrooms without that. Everybody that goes to college without that. And then it's going to be, you can't go back to work. We talked about the people that work from home. You can't come back to work unless you have this vaccination. It's going to be so much to the point where you can't go to a football game, a college football game, unless you have this vaccination. This is where people are going to build up. I believe Joker was talking about that. It's going to build up to that point with the vaccination.
But I mean, this is all like speculation. Like we don't know what they have and what they don't have. I think we kind of have to look at this as almost kind of like a worst case scenario. If this drags on for a year or two, what are the consequences if that happens?
Well, I mean, if you look at herd immunity, so you need to be anywhere between a 70 and 80% herd immunity for this to be effective with this R naught value, which is, depending on who you listen to, but it's high, 4, 5, 6, whatever it is. So you're going to need herd immunity. So really what we're probably going to have to do realistically is now Japan and China, and I think one case in Italy have reported where somebody that has recovered from it is coming back down with it again, which means that your immunity to it does not last as long as the flu, which is usually you get the flu once a year. And I mean, most of us are good for a couple of years because, again, of herd immunity. But if you turn right around and someone with the flu gives it back to you, it's in your own household, you don't get it again. Well, the problem that they're fearing with this is that you can get it, get better, and get it again. And if that continues to happen, then there may not be a herd immunity. So here's the thing. We don't know who's telling the truth right now. We don't know what the real stats are because China's not being realistic with anything. So what we're going to have to do is let this run its course and then let them get the real data behind this, if, who knows what comes around with it. And then once that's out, then we may get an idea of what the truth of this is. But until then, you have to assume worst case scenario, which is, this is going to be a hot mess for at least till vaccination comes out 18 months away.
Yep.
I think what the South Koreans... I think what the South Koreans are doing is probably like I trust their data because they do tests. You come into like something like a phone booth and you go into it and they test you there automatically, or you do the drive-through testing. So they're testing, and their total number of active cases versus is going down. If at this rate, within 2 weeks, if they continue this rate, they will have 0 new cases in their country in South Korea. So we can do this, but we have to get crazy with the testing. We have to get crazy with the lockdowns. We have to and in South Korea, they didn't even do the lockdowns that much. We have to get with the masks. We have to take all. I mean, we can get it under control, and then if we get it under control in one country or region, then we open our travel to other countries and regions that also have it under control, and then we slowly go back to normalcy that way. But I don't think it'll ever be under control in Latin America or Africa or India or those types of places.
Well, remember, Korea doesn't have the freedoms that we do, so they could track that user's cell phone location and see every location he went. So I would not be surprised to see where the government requires every new phone comes with an app that you have to. Coming. That's right. So they can track where you are at all times and blah, blah, blah. And I'll tell you what, Joker will be back on an old Nokia 2100 gray that you can back over with a school bus and that won't break. I'll be back on that joint because I mean, it's not even that you're doing anything wrong, but I'm not for government in that way. And but I think because of this, now they're even talking about end-to-end encryption ending on texting and messaging. I think they're trying to just take this may be a freedom grab. I don't know, man.
Of course.
And man, the reason why South Korea is doing so well, you got a couple of different factors. But I'm going to compare it to my country, the States. Here in the United States, we have been running a 100-plus year dysgenics program where we have funded the reproduction of useless single mothers and their bastards, right? That results in lower IQ. In South Korea, they all got masks. They all know social distancing. Here in the U.S., we got homeless people coughing in each other's mouths as a fucking joke, okay? It's going to get bad. But the vaccine is possible. We've identified the right kind of antibody that confers resistance. And the idea that, you might catch it again. There's 2 strains out there. That's a possibility. But I highly doubt, to catch the same, you'd have to have a lot of mutation. That's something that can come back. But to come back at this ferocity, it would be a very novel virus, to say the least. And I'm very skeptical on that. But again, I like the idea that we should operate assuming that the worst is going to happen. I think that's a pretty good thing to do when it comes to public health. But when it comes to how to protect your financial assets, we all know the West is going to try to print their way out of this. They're just going to keep printing money. So, You know, it's a good idea to have cash, but at some point that cash is going to be used to fucking put up wallpaper, right? It's gonna be cash
It's going to be hyper deflation and then hyperinflation, one right behind the other.
Yeah. So
You
I
buy
highly
into
recommend-
the argument of Mike Maloney. He's been talking about that.
Yep.
We call it Venezuelan wallpaper.
Yeah, exactly.
with my
Plenty of
limited-
toilet paper.
Well, if
that
you're an
means there's
American, sorry, Sam, man. If you're an American and you want to put your money in something that will retain value, go out and get some. Well, you can't now, but you should have gone out and gotten 10 Colt Pythons because them bitches never lose value. That's what I did. So $1,000 each. We were $1,000 each. A couple years, we're good. And if not, I got my Buddhas and firearms.
I'll just borrow a samurai knife from Pop. That's what I'll do.
Well, but the best way for you younger guys to hedge your bets against anything, cash is king. You know, if it's something you enjoy doing, make cash and stash it away. Eventually you'll be able to invest it. But you notice the people,
But not if it goes into hyperinflation, obviously. But
it'll go into hyperinflation.
Deflation first.
Right, but it'll go into hyperinflation for everyone. So maybe my $1,000 someday is only worth 100. Well, your 100's only worth $1. So the point is that the more of it, you still are in the upper echelon of guys that have more decisions and people that have more decisions. Because you notice the Hollywood stars and idiots right now talking about I'm such a hero for not wearing makeup today. You notice they're not complaining about what's going to become up and coming in the money situation because they've got so much of it. So I'm not saying that
it doesn't matter when your inflation rate is 15 million %.
Well, I get you. At that point, we're all broke. I mean, it doesn't matter. But at least I'll be able to buy one loaf of bread.
True.
You can ride it out for 10 days.
You always find the bright side on shit, man.
That's right, man. I might be able to get a little peanut butter with my bread, but I agree. But there's no way if they run it into the ground like that. We go back to something that was similar to the Great Depression. The ones that still survived the Great Depression the best were the ones that didn't. That even if they weren't working, could float it out. They could at least pay their bills. And all I'm saying is that, you know, we may have another situation like this again someday. We may never crawl out of this one, or we might have, it might be easy sailing out. But the only thing you can do is prepare for the worst and hope for the best. And that's the only choice you got in a situation like this.
Let me ask you guys a question while I got you. How many of you men know how to clean and dress a buck?
There's 12 experts.
I'm
What's
a
a
city
buck?
slicker.
I'm kidding.
I'm a
I
city
do.
slicker.
I do.
I'm from the city. I definitely can't do that.
There's something to be said. Hunters get a lot of bullshit, and they have a lot of people crawling up their asses for doing what they do. But these will be the people. Hunters and preppers will be the people that everybody else flocks to.
Yep.
So if you get the opportunity at some point in time during your life, you really do need to go out, stalk and kill yourself a deer, and learn how to dress that animal. Because if shit goes south, which it probably will, when it goes south, you're gonna have to know how to eat, and you're not gonna be able to go out there and get mouthfuls of grass to take care of business.
Well, this could be sooner than later. This could be sooner than later.
That's right. And traps are underrated. Traps are amazing. Talk about small game, set up half a dozen traps, and we used to do that and catch rabbits and hares. And I've had rabbit soup before, but you know, but we can all joke that this is, you know, end of the world type talk. But let's face it, none of us would be sitting here thinking that we might have like a mandatory quarantine either. None of us thought that we'd have millions of unemployed in a matter of a day. None of us thought that.
Look how fast it happened.
I got some of my January videos, my man. I was talking about Corona Chan for a while now. I was looking forward to it. I was like getting the bottles ready, because here's the beautiful thing about Corona Chan. With Corona, with this giant problem, right? No one gives a shit what your gender identity is when you're drowning in your own lungs, right? So with this disaster, it's a war. All the bullshit gets cut. And for young men with, you know, not a lot of assets, even debt, now it's a beautiful, beautiful opportunity, right? So here's a job offer to all my brooders out there. You want to make money during the quarantine? I know a business that is hiring. Instead of burning joints, you can help my boys burn some bodies. Call your local man. I'm a young man. I want a new bodies all day. I'm not even shitting you. You will make so much money. Ooh, that's a suggestion. Local morgue, call them up. You know, you might get the coof for a couple weeks. You might die. It's a 1 in a million, but you know, is it better than getting sent to get shot by some fucking Nazis? Hell yeah. I'll take Corona Chan over Nazis shooting at me any day.
That young guy who was looking for workout advice. I mean, lifting dead bodies can be quite hard work.
Hey, man, they'll be giving them away. So, you know.
And don't think it's not possible, because I'm amazed at how fast Americans were able to lie down and give up their freedoms that fast. On February 28th, nobody could see this as a possibility. March 12th, everyone gave up their freedoms. Everybody said, okay, I mean, that fast. So that's what concerns me. Is I even brought it up on a post online, and I said, look, you know, the Constitution is still in effect. And the guy was like, well, you're worried more about the Constitution than coronavirus. I was like, listen, if the Constitution is destroyed, we got nothing. We have nothing. And the reality is, the way people's mindsets are right now, they're completely content with sitting at home, playing video games and watching Netflix, and giving up whatever freedoms. We're talking about First Amendment, Second, Fourth, all the way down the line. We've already given them up. Right to assembly, all right, free speech, all of that stuff. We're already giving it up. Right to bear arms is kind of going out the window. So this is scary. This is a scary time.
What do they do? How do they dress that shit? They dress it every single time for your safety.
For your safety. Yep. And then they say you're going to die. They're going to say you're going to die if you don't obey this. And so this is a slippery slope. I worry about that more than anything else, because the average American doesn't even know their Bill of Rights, right? And it can become important when they come in, once this is all gone, then they come back and say, you know what? Why don't you guys stay in every Monday through Thursday for the next 2 years? Now what? Now where are we?
This happened in 1918 and 1919, and they had a parade in Philadelphia as the Spanish flu was rolling in, and I don't know, thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of people died from it. And the same lesson happens again. They have Mardi Gras, and they have the Mardi Gras parade, and now look what's going on in Louisiana. So we don't learn from history, but we have to look back on what they did in 1919. They probably limited, people's social life, but how did they unlimit it? How did they go back to normal after that? And I think if we can kind of go back in history and see what they did, then that can give us like a clue as to hopefully the direction we go into.
Hey Sam, man, by the way, there's one other march recently happened that you've forgotten about. The March for International Women's Day in Spain.
Is that the one that everyone keeps sharing with like the 5,000 naked women marching through that street in Spain somewhere? Because I keep seeing that. Everyone keeps sharing that one with me. So I don't know.
That's female privilege.
So this was on March 8th. This was 21 days ago.
Oh wow!
Okay. Right. Men are more likely to die from Corona Chan. Men die 2-1 to a woman for Corona Chan.
Yeah.
And these bitches are out here spreading their disgusting germs. Gonorrhea, syphilis, and Corona Chan.
I've never seen any of the three of those sprayed, and I do not want to. I'm just putting that out there.
You should spend some time in a inner city clinic, my man. This gets nasty.
No, it's fucking disgusting.
Actually, I'm actually going to put as my background a picture of the Women's March, just to show you the density and volume of people there. You guys are going to be like, are you even serious right now?
Oh, they were face to face.
Oh, mate, give me a second.
I can only see Hammerhand's face.
Go to the grid view, and you
grid.
can. It'll.
Oh, okay, and then I can.
Go.
All right.
Yeah, just hit them little buttons at the bottom there, and just
there we
start
go.
hitting them.
Look at that, Jesus! I see all these people in the back.
Damn.
Okay.
They call
who's masturbating over there?
Yeah, right.
You know what they call that, don't you? Is Darwinism, so they can all spread their stupidity around. And
that's better.
Okay, there you go.
That's just
you cannot make this stuff up. You cannot make this stuff up.
What was the date on this?
This was March. March the 8th this month.
Oh my dear.
March 8th, 2020.
So, in other
words,
it
is now the 29th of March.
So Australia's done. That's the end of that.
No, that was Spain.
That's Spain.
Oh,
There's a
Spain.
flag.
But that was
I
before.
wasn't even.
But that was before
they.
they were what, quarantine.
Yeah.
This was before that.
No, this is basically when
This is
the
during.
warnings are starting to come out. It's like, hey, you guys need to, like, just
Yeah, but
try
they
not
were
to have
well
any
into the idea that they already knew about this shit. I mean, this had been on the radar for over a month, almost 40
Yeah,
days.
they ain't backing out.
They knew.
They don't.
So they weren't going
want-
to back out.
They want special privileges more than they want everyone not to die.
Wow.
Well, they got it.
Look,
Special privilege straight to the house.
I've been talking. I've got female clients who are going out of their minds. I told them about this. I said, "Stay home. You got diabetes. It's going to kill you if you get it." And they're like, "But I got to go to the mall. I got to get my hair done. I got to get my nails done." And I'm like, "You're going to die." It's like, but how am I going to go to the restaurant? I go, "What are you
Let's
doing?"
go.
And then, a couple days ago, she's like, "I went out to the park, and those people just won't listen to the quarantine, and they're out on this." I'm like, "But you're out there too. Like, what are you doing?" Like, it's totally insane. Remember, for women, they have to socialize every weekend. Otherwise, from my experience,
day.
at work, yes, but
That's what they work. Yeah, when they work, they're socializing for about 6.5 hours.
But now that's all gone. So now you're going to start to see all these dysfunctions start to come out. And you're going to start to see even more irrational behavior. And you're going to see them doing dangerous things. They wouldn't have risks they never would have taken to talk to somebody, right? So this is kind of the world we're facing. And guys are going to die because of this.
Dudes. They might talk to short dudes. Shit might get crazy out here. they might talk to some bald motherfuckers.
Hey, what are you supposed to say?
But here's the thing, Sandman. Compared to 1918, our percentage of people living in cities has doubled, and our population is almost like quadrupled. So, with how fast it spreads, and here's the thing: 1% of any population are going to be fucking crazy people. So, just think of Toronto. How many people live in there? Think of all the crazy people in there. Oh, they love this. All these bitches fighting over toilet paper. This is going to be a daily occurrence, and I can't see these. Big ones, these are the ones that give me the best full body workout when I have to lift them out of their house when they're
do you realize there's doctors that talk. Oh, go ahead.
I was just going to say the 1900s travel wasn't like it was now. I mean, you can go 3,000 miles in just a couple hours. So this is no bueno.
Yeah, it's nothing close. You can spread it faster now than you've ever been able to.
Right.
All this toilet paper is just going to give them polished anus syndrome. That's what dermatologists call it when women wipe their ass too much and it gets itchy, and then they have to buy all kinds of creams. So I would start thinking about the next step. Where are the creams that help for the ass itch from wiping your ass too much, right?
And how can we buy stocks in these companies?
Yeah. Well, I wouldn't buy the stocks. I'd buy the creams themselves, right? And then just try to hey, I got the cream, baby. You got the toilet paper? Just kind of go from there. But seriously though, the reason think about the toilet paper craze for toilet paper. Why do they go nuts for toilet paper? Because if it's the apocalypse, the woman that's got the cleanest smelling ass will probably be able to get the best man, right? Like you got to think that, you got to think about the irrationality of the situation. If they keep their most valuable asset clean, then they can get the green, right?
You know where it all started? It started from the media saying it's just about to become more difficult to get your hands on toilet paper. That was literally what the media said. It wasn't even out of stock yet. The media just said that, and everyone's like, "Oh my god, if it's going to be hard to get my hands on it, I better get some." Yeah. And then, of course, they went out and got heaps of it, and then there was none left on the shelf. And then everyone was like, "Oh my god, how am I going to get toilet paper?" And they just went nuts. Like the media just set off this frenzy from day one.
But I looked at the toilet paper. I looked at the toilet paper.
Question.
Go ahead.
I'm sorry about that, Coach. I'd like to ask a question to Pop. Obviously, you've got some connections out there, and has anybody been talking to you specifically about what they feel is going to happen if shit goes south? I mean, really south. And I'm not even talking about full-bore war. I'm talking about just more than 3 or 4 days food shortages. Do they have a plan lined up to handle what's going to happen? Because it's going to get nasty.
Well, yes and no. They do have a plan for martial law. The military always has a martial law plan on the back burner for whatever reason. It just basically you fill in, the blank, fill in X. But their problem is this: they don't have enough people.
Clearly.
You bring back the Army, you bring back all of the IRR, you bring back all the Guard, and lump that all on together with the police. It's like one person per 150 people.
That's a good point.
It's not nearly enough.
It's not enough. Well,
Not nearly enough.
So what people need to start doing is probably going around their neighborhood and doing like an organized,
Right.
People in your particular where you know all your neighbors and stuff like that to keep all the shenanigans down to a dull roar. But the FEMA has a bunch of camps they've been setting up throughout the 80s, 90s, and early 2000s. From time to time, people have taken pictures of flatbed trucks carrying plastic burial vaults, the ones that stack together. And even now, Jesse the Body Ventura did some shows regards to this. So there is a plan out there for a pandemic and stuff like that. And chances are they won't have enough people to enforce it. And it's just going to get ugly.
Do you think that this was biologic or man-made?
My money is on it was a natural virus that they were starting to tweak with before it got really deadly.
Same.
And some ass hat in the lab, which the only P4 lab in all of China was 280 meters away from the wet market in Wuhan. He probably took a couple of these animals because they live in a communist society. He needed some side cash, sold them there, and they're off to the races.
I'd argue it's the perfect weapon because if it's too lethal, it moves too fast. People get scared, you react fast. But since we got a 2-week time bomb on this, you got the stupid, ignorant people walking around. Oh, it's not going to affect. 2 weeks. It's only 10 cases. In 2 weeks, 100 cases, then 1,000, then 100,000, and then your economy is fucked. So
but
I
completely
agree. I think it was definitely tampered with. Because
right now there's an 80% survival rate on from the stats I'm seeing. Okay, for a
That's
weapon
just from the people that have been tested.
Yeah,
so
yeah.
I reckon there's a lot more people that are
Probably
asymptomatic.
much higher.
Yeah, but for a weapon of war, you want to have a long latency period. You want it to actually affect people before it shows symptoms, but you want to have a slightly higher fatality rate than 1 to 3%. You want it somewhere like 10 to 20%, because when it's 10 to 20%, then you severely bring your enemy's economy to its knees. It cannot survive.
We don't know what the actual case fatality rate is right now.
I agree with
don't.
that.
You're
I
right.
agree with that. Yeah, we don't know.
And once the hospital beds run out, it's going to jump probably to 5 to 10%. I mean, look what's going on in Italy, right? So it's going to happen everywhere.
That's part of the death rate that it's hard to account for, right? Because since you have such a rapid burn rate buildup of this, our hospital systems crash, and then all of a sudden, maybe some fat ass has a heart attack. Maybe you get in a car accident. Maybe you get a deep cut. But your doctors are too busy dealing with people on ventilators. They don't got time for your ass. So instead, you just die at home. You die at the scene. You die at the crash. So there's a lot of death unaccounted for because the hospital systems crashed.
Well, that's another reason why they want to keep you at home, right? Because they don't need you out there in a car accident, in a motorcycle crash. They don't need you doing silly stuff to go to the hospital. But I also think that you guys need to account for this. The amount of nurses that are going to back out of the hospitals is going to be astronomical as this expands. They're already going, I don't want no parts of this, and they're going to back out. Now, when that happens, that's less people that are going to be able to help. And when that happens, I think the numbers are going to skyrocket.
I'm touching on this in a future video I'm planning. Remember when Louisiana flooded 5-6 years back?
Yeah, Katrina.
Men came from hundreds of miles around, brought their personal watercraft without being told or reimbursed to pull people, from the mayhem in the water and get them to safety. Right now, this affects men 2/3, 1/3. right? Where are all of the women stepping up to be the heroes in this whole equation?
They can't
They're
come
waiting
out
for all the
because,
men to
going to.
fucking die, is what they're doing.
well, if they can't come out of the house because they haven't done their nails in 2 weeks, their roots are showing. So,
I'm just saying.
Hashtag women of coronavirus.
that's right. You know,
Sydney?
the big
Yo.
thing about
Sorry,
this,
guys. Mike,
the
the
big-
MGTOW man says he has no audio. He's trying to get in there. I apologize for interrupting you there, brother.
no worries.
Yeah, Mike the MGTOW man. He's I don't know where he is
Says
there.
he has no audio. I don't know if that's on your end or his.
Yeah, so
Okay.
everyone who I haven't invited by email to this stream specifically does not have audio. So I can't actually see anyone in the chat mic anyway. So I don't know who that person is specifically.
Letting you know.
The reason why
Oh, good.
nurses are running from this is because this is the war. This is the great war, right? Except it's a public health crisis. So who are the fighters? Health professionals. Okay. Are you going to think the male doctors are going to be running in? I know about 8 male doctors out of retirement. You know, these are people that will die if they get it, going back to the hospital. At the same time, you have young nursing students, these women, you know, in their 20s, they're not going to die if they catch it. They're just sprinting from the hospital because they don't have a mask. And I'm seeing these old 80-year-old men working without masks. It really just shows you who you want on your side in a crisis.
Right.
And why do we send all emails to medical schools, to nursing schools, to all these institutions if they're going to
Hey,
run
Coach,
away?
is that you?
Yeah.
All right, cool.
Yeah. Hey,
All these people in medical schools, you're saying?
Hey, Sydney MGTOW, I gotta punch out here. I got some shit going down.
Nah, man. Look, Terrence, thank you so
Audio.
much for being in here, bro. Guys,
Thank you,
if
Bob.
you're a
Thank
fan
you.
of pop stuff, head on over to
And if you
redonkulous.com.
want me back, just give me a little heads up. I really don't have a problem.
We'd love to have you back, man. Thank you so much
Thanks,
for
Bob.
coming in today.
All right, I'll talk to you guys.
Thanks, Bob.
Appreciate
See you
it,
later.
man.
You know, one of the reasons why I just want to throw in one of the reasons why they're locking this down so hard is it's not necessarily that it's the mortality rate. It's that 20% require medical assistance because of low oxygen, because of their
Yep.
lungs filling up with water. So if they get overburdened and they hit their cap, that 20% that keeps on a coming that can't get into the hospitals is basically toast. I mean, that's why Italy went from DNR went from 75 to 70. Now it's 65 or 60. They keep lowering that, saying if you're older than this, we got to let you go because they're just so inundated. So we're being locked down, not so much to keep it from spreading, but from keeping that 20% that requires medical help under the capacity. And this may be something that needs to roll where we say, okay, everyone under the age of 60 needs to stay in and younger people can go out to work, and they adjust that down or adjust that up to keep our economy going. But, you know, then if it looks like it's easing up, then a little bit older can come out. If it looks like we got to crank it down a little bit, that's all I can see coming, man. This is going to be a mess.
It's a balancing act for sure.
Yep.
Well, think about what it says that you have all of these men out here that are working. They've got no masks. They're over the age that they're recommending to stay in or stay isolated, and hoes are walking around by the fucking millions, still doing the shit that they're doing. They're not going to go and save those guys. So who's more important to you? Men don't bear children, right?
Yep.
You're going to keep the
that's
children
always-
bearers until they make up a test tube or an artificial womb.
If a
I missed
woman is chasing a career, she is a man and needs to be treated as such. We need to get to the point where if you are even considering, I'm talking to the TradCons here, speaking to a woman, dating a woman, if she's not giving you 4 or 5 kids, that's a man. Why are you being gay, bruh?
Well,
Yeah.
the truth of it is that one man and one man given enough time with 300 women can repopulate a city, but
Right.
one woman with 300 men is going to have a couple of kids. So just by nature's fact, we're more expendable. Not that we boil it down to that, maybe in the forebrain, but women are always going to be the protected class when it comes down to it. But men, I think a lot of men know that, and a lot of men will step up. I think many of us at one point in time might have stepped up till we learned a little differently. And it doesn't mean we wouldn't, but
I think even if you learn, you'll still step up. I think that's just the
exactly
nature of
to
the
some
beast.
degree.
Yeah.
I mean, I stepped up
I
for my
agree with
family,
that.
so
You know, it's
It's
been
coded
very
into your
difficult
DNA
since
to
I grabbed that
sacrifice.
red pill and I started chugging them things down. It's been very difficult for me to just hold back on being a generous person.
Yeah.
That doesn't make you a cuck. That doesn't make you an asshole, a sellout, or a loser. It just means that that's what you are as a man. You know, men are giving by nature. They're giving by nature. They want people to succeed. They want to see their sons and their daughters succeed. But there's just too much out here working against them.
Right.
I mean, I've tried to help
Correct.
people. I've given advice. I've actually I've done all kinds of things. And at the end of the day, most people don't want advice. They want, either someone just to listen to, or they'll make their own mistakes, and then they won't even acknowledge that they've made their own mistakes. So it's gotten to the point where it's just counterproductive to even give advice. It's just, that's pretty much
Most
what
people
I've gotten
are
into.
comfortable with the lie. They're comfortable with the lie, right? They're way comfortable with the lie because the lie promises them something that it promises them something tangible, right? That they can feel. But when you tell them, hey guys, listen, this is the facts. What you're going to go through is not even going to be worth what you're getting. It's hard for a man to say, oh, I'll take that option. So right now, what they're saying is, look, I'll take random missionary marital intercourse every now and then. I'll take that option as opposed to changing myself, understanding what is real, all right, protecting myself, building myself. They'll take that option rather than doing what's hard.
It's easier.
That's the fight.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
much easier.
Yeah.
But look at the
100%.
generation problem, though. The generation problem that's coming is that men at one point would have helped women. But now, not only do men not get any of the benefits for helping women,
Right.
we get crapped on for doing it.
Yeah.
I mean, how many times has a guy, I've done stories on this where a guy helps a woman that broke down by the side of the road, and she accused him of something that he didn't even do. He got divorced.
Right.
He
I
gets
saw that
accused
story.
Yeah, and so now it's kind of like, man, I'd love to help you, but man, I don't know you. I don't know what's going to happen. A guy gives CPR if he does it wrong. He gets a medical claim on him. Another woman may say he was inappropriately touching her chest areas. He was pumping on her. It's too much. And so now it's not anymore where we don't have a benefit. It's now there's a detriment to helping out. And I think that's why so many men are just checking out of it. Like, I don't even feel like I'm comfortable engaging with women if I don't know you and I don't know you're nuts with all your red flags and everything else.
Yeah, but where is it coming from?
Women.
See, where it's coming from. It's being institutionalized. These people are being institutionalized from fucking first grade all the way till the time that they get out of high school or they go through college.
Yep.
That's where it's coming from. And then where is that teaching coming from? It's coming from all of the motherfuckers that came over here between 37 and 42 that settled on the West Coast. And it's being done with the permission and the blessing of our government.
Yep.
And the funny thing is the only people,
teachers.
Yep. And the only people it's going to hurt is the women. Because once a man really decides to go his own way, you can't hurt me anymore. I mean, financially maybe, or something like that. But I can't be taken advantage of like a lot of younger guys can. So once a man learns, he never goes back. And men look at the ages that are in this room alone. Look at how the ages are now down into the 20s, into the teens. Oh, yeah. These are men that may go out there and have fun. They may go out and play around with girls and maybe date a little bit. But you really think they're going to step up and help women or support them or want to be a financial, have a woman be a financial burden? No way. No way.
No.
Well, the women are going to treat them like crap anyway. So, I mean, why would they even do that?
Yep. The only thing is they can't hide their game anymore. They put it front and center. And again, we don't say all women, but enough of them that you say statistically, I'm not comfortable playing this game anymore.
They're not even pretending to be nice anymore up front. Nah. It's gotten to that point. So, why should you be nice if they can't pretend to be nice?
Right. I mean, at least they used to pretend. You don't even get that anymore. No.
Yeah. It's crazy, right?
Have you got any more questions? Are you going to move on to something?
I've actually got Mike the MGTOW Monk here. So I'm going to unmute him and Mike, I'm going to unmute you, but I want to get a question from you, Mike, and I want to get you asking us something so that we can all go to town on it. So let's go. There we go. You're unmuted, brother.
This is a outstanding meeting you got here, man. Like my buddy told me, he's like, "Oh my God, they're having this meeting." I'm like, I have to be there. I I don't know exactly because I kind of came in late, but with the COVID-19 thing, whether or not it's going to affect all of us physically, like whether or not it's going to kill everybody, like I don't think it's going to kill everybody, obviously, but I knew there would be the panic shopping. You know, I'm a native from Florida, so I'm used to, you know, panic shopping and shit. So like a month prior, I was
Hurricanes.
I was telling everybody to prepare, you know, for the panic of it. And I've always been called a doomsday prepper, you know, which is just what people call people who are prepared, who are smart. So I'm very well prepared, and you know, and I'll say it just because we're on the back, you know, in the back a little bit, but basically I'm affiliated with the 3%ers, and that's all I'm gonna say. But you know, I'm prepared and I'm safe. I've got the N95 masks and stuff. So I'm just worried for, you know, the fact that every time I turn on the TV, they briefly mention on a banner, oh, you know, it's mostly killing men. But you know, but yet they want to do these op-eds or whatever you want to call them about these women. Oh, this woman's pregnant. Let's do a 30-minute special about it, and she's got the COVID-19 and she's pregnant. It's killing mostly men, and if it was killing mostly women, they would have hashtags and all kinds of shit going on. They would have GoFundMe's for like Save Our Moms and shit. So that's kind of where I'm at. That's what's kind of pissing me off is people are panicking when they should have been prepared prior, and also. The fact that women keep, you know, they're still stealing the podium. They don't want to get off the podium. And it's like, this is actually affecting men. This is more of a men's issue right now than it is a women's issue. Not only that, notice how it's just like Bill Burr said, there's no feminists in a house fire. You don't see these feminists talking all that shit before this happened. You don't see them ranting and raving at this moment. You just don't see it. So it's men who are picking up the pieces. So that's my little rant. I just had to go off because
we've always been we're the disposable heroes. We always have been.
Well, women read the newspapers, so they're catering to their audience by writing all those op-ed pieces. And on top of that, women love their attention. They're not going to give up the mic right now when there's so much attention to be had, and all the attention seems to be pressed into the situation. I mean, putting out my regular content, like the content views are just dropping, collapsing because everyone would rather go someplace else. Like if you look at Pop's channel, he's not here, but anyway, every video now is pretty much about the situation. It's not about his, you know, usual type of content. So he's adapting to the situation and trying to get views that way. But again, you can't monetize this, right? So I think the only person I've heard that's, you know, non-mainstream is Tim Pool that's been able to monetize it. Everybody else has pretty much been SOL, right?
And he got an okay. He had to go through jumps through
Well, he jumped through a lot of hurdles to get that.
Through that.
Yeah. Yep. And it's not even good for all his videos.
Right.
Pretty much anything that doesn't fit the mainstream narrative, it's going to be demonetized. It's kind of like, and I wasn't shocked when I seen this, Sandman, but when I seen that post where you got demonetized, or you got a strike, actually. This is
2 strikes. Oh no, I got a warning first, and then I got a strike. Yeah, go ahead.
Just for you know, sharing the dollhouse, and I'm sure Phil was, you know, pretty pissed about that.
Well, no, I had that was a link. They'd sent me a warning before, and I'd taken down like probably 99% of the links, and because they said you can't share this link. Okay, so I took it down. That was an old video that I had forgotten to take down, and that was the one they just found, I guess, that I'd missed. And they still say they could see that I took it down off of everything else, but they still gave me that strike.
Yeah,
they didn't care.
Yep. And I feel like, honestly, you have a good case where you can state your case that it was actually sexism, because there's plenty of women doing, you know, these reviews on dildos and all this other shit. We've all seen that side of YouTube. And it's like they get to put the links in there. They get ad revenue and they get sponsorship. So why is it that women can do this, but when men do it, it's a problem? To me, it's blatant sexism.
Look, there's a giant vibrator ad as you're driving into Toronto when you come in from the city on the west, Mississauga, and it's huge. It's a billboard, and it's got like, you know, for your pleasure, and it's this giant like vibrator dildo thing, and and everybody knows what it is, and it's perfectly allowed. But you know, you can't advertise. You can't even link to something. I didn't even have the video footage in there. It was just a link. That's all. That's the only reason they got me for it. A link.
Imagine that billboard with a flashlight on it. Wouldn't last 5 minutes.
No.
Oh god. Yeah, they probably set it on fire.
Oh, yeah.
No, they'd fail setting it on fire. They try and it wouldn't light up. They try to set it on fire in a rainstorm or something.
Yeah, it's kind of dumb to try that.
You could always put the fire out with those feminist tears.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. That'd be great. I mean, there's plenty of them going around. That's for sure.
Yep. You know what's funny is I keep hearing of these stories, of these guys that are, getting texts and DMs from their exes, hitting them up saying, "Oh, hey, let's get some coffee." No, not get coffee, but let's go do something. And it's these bitches are, okay. The viewers that are viewing right now, they got to understand. A lot of your exes are going to try to come out of the woodworks, and they're going to apologize. I've already had one try to, DM me on Facebook, and she got the Insta block. That's the Insta thought block. So, so I blocked her ass, but I'm hearing all these other stories of the same shit happening to other guys where these women are coming out the woodworks. They were bitches before, but now they're trying to play that, oh, I'm a cute, dainty, innocent woman card. And it's just like tax season, right? When tax season comes by, these thoughts here, oh, Joe Schmo's got some money coming in, time to be nice. You know what I mean? And when you're blue pilled and you're a simp, you're going to fall for it. But as a red pill man, we just need to be aware that these women are going to get more and more desperate, and the homeless shelters, because I'm known for helping out the homeless. I like to do it in Hammerhand. Honestly, he inspired me to do that because he was always helping out the homeless prior to me ever trying to do it. But all of these homeless shelters nationwide, I've traveled the country, they're all packed, right? So these women, they're going to run out of resources for that. A lot of them are bartenders, waitresses. They're all losing their jobs. There's going to be millions of Americans. There's already like 3 million at least right now that are jobless. So what you're going to see is something that I predicted. This isn't the collapse we predicted, but it's one that we got. So like basically what I said was, when there's a collapse, you're going to see women holding signs on the street corner, and they're not going to look different than some chick that you see, at Hooters. You know what I mean? But it's going to happen, and because when you got millions and millions of women out there and resources are scarce, even the fucking simps. Some of them, if it gets bad enough, some of them, they're going to be like, fuck you, bitches. Dude, a lot of guys are going to go MGTOW, and they're not even going to know the acronym, but they're going to go MGTOW during this crisis. Because who wants to feed 2 mouths and then 3 mouths and then 4 mouths? You don't have to. You know what I mean?
I've seen what women do when they get into hard times financially. What they'll do is they'll rent a house, so they'll move in with their like other women, and then they'll basically sublet rooms in their apartment or their house, and they'll just kind of all group together in one place. And so, there'll be a lot of empty properties, and there might be one property that's got like 5 or 10 women living in it, and they'll all kind of group together in one hen house. I mean, and I've seen this over and over. I think the homeless thing, I mean, a lot will probably go back to their parents. Some will find roommates. Yeah. It just depends on how long this drags out. And, Stefan Molyneux was talking about a woman who's a would-be photographer. And she's like, well, I have enough money to get me through the middle of April. And it's like, well, that's not enough. What's going to happen after the middle of April? Right. But she lives with roommates already. So she's already spending $500, for $600 a month on her room. So she'll just get the government to like give her $500, $600 so she can stay in that room. And, she'll get a few $100 from her parents, and she'll buy her food. And I've seen women do this. They'll get some welfare money. They'll sublet one of their bedrooms. And all of a sudden they live exactly the same way as before. Except, they get somebody else to kind of pay their way, either the government or a roommate or, somebody else. So they don't necessarily need men all the time. They can use other women. They can use the government. They can find other ways to kind of patch things together, their parents, stuff like that.
I've told people before that the reason why women don't need men is because, like you were kind of pointing out, the hive, they got that hive mentality. I've seen women that hate each other, help each other out in times of need, but then they take each other over whenever that need is gone.
Yeah.
It's amazing how they do that.
Well, and there's legit women that'll go out there and just date and go out to a couple of pubs and try to meet a guy that's got lots of coin to rub together. And oops, honey, I'm pregnant. And all of a sudden she's got the check coming from him and from Big Daddy government. And she's on Easy Street now.
Well, do you guys hear what happened to Al Pacino? Al Pacino was dating a 40-year-old actress who 39. She wanted to basically get pregnant and have a family, but he didn't want to. And then she called him cheap. And she said that he was an elderly man, even though she'd been with him for 2 years. Right. And then it all backfired in her face. And now she's like, well, I'm not a gold digger. She had to like do another article to prove that she's not a gold digger. It's hilarious.
Yeah.
So.
By the way, guys, I'm going to bring my Mr. Elite MGTOW in shortly. But if people could just stop fucking spamming the chat, demanding that people be let in, that would be great, because I will ban people that continue to do that. It's really frustrating, and I've replied to you individuals. And I've said, yes, I will do this. And I'm a man of my word. So just take it easy.
So I got to take this moment because I have to say this, man. Sam, man, you woke me up, bro. You want to know how lost I was, man, before I basically met MGTOW? I basically, you know, was going through an issue with a woman where she got pregnant before she met me. Okay, I didn't know what the cock carousel was, and I didn't understand none of that shit at the time. You know, she was riding the cock carousel, and at the time I was in marketing, and I was traveling the country. I made 6 figures. I made a lot of money. I mean, it was sick how much money I made. And so she needed somebody to ditch that problem onto, because she didn't want her family to know that she was a cock carousel rider. And so she, you know, because I was young and dumb, you know, she got me to hook up within the first week. So naturally she started showing some signs. I'm like, oh, I got her pregnant. Damn, that was quick, but it happened, right? But about 8 months later and some change, like not 9 months, but 8 months and some change, she goes to the emergency room. She has the baby. I'm not even let in. And the reason why is because the day before, it's really irony, really, because I thought I still had a little bit longer to go. But the day before she actually had the child, I told her, I said, I want a paternity test. And she's like, okay, you know, whatever, no problem. And it was just weird how she took it like it was no big deal, but I wasn't let in. And, you know, and it was crazy. I was going through all this, and I got into an argument with a MGTOW online about it, because I guess I put my dirty laundry online. I mean, simps do that. I was a simp at the time. I have no qualms admitting I was definitely a simp before MGTOW. And I put my dirty laundry out there, and a MGTOW was like, you know, all women are like that and this and that. Like, he was just going on about this stuff, and he started putting stats out there about, you know, 80% marriage rate, you know, failure, this and that and the other. And he started, you know, telling me about paternity fraud and how I got lucky, but it, you know, could have happened. And I got pissed. I got so fucking mad. I started like trying to debate this guy. But the problem is, and this is what a lot of simps don't realize, is, you know, you might be, you know, even the trad cucks out there, you might be used to debating liberals. Like I've been debating liberals my whole life, and I never lose. But when I debated a MGTOW, he fucking served that fucking platter cold, bro. And at the end of it, you know, I was like, where do you get your information? He's like, there's this guy named Sandman on YouTube. I was like, man, let me go see. So I went over there and I watched your intro to MGTOW, and that's the video that did it for me, man. So I have to tell you, like, to me personally, that one video changed my entire life.
No, thank you. I mean, for me, it was Stardust. I listened to a long rant. Somebody put together all his short videos into one 2-hour, 3-hour long video. I listened to the whole thing in about 2 days, and I was like, I'll digest, and I was like, no, this is advice as to why I shouldn't be dating, as opposed to who I should be dating. And then that woke me up, and then I couldn't go back to sleep after that. That was pretty much it.
By the way, Sam, man, Stardust was actually in here earlier.
Well, you know, he's my biggest fan and everything. So
thanks for stopping by.
Yeah, I mean, there were a couple times where they tried to set me up, so I would debate him like in a couple chats, and you know, like they tried to like set me up and all this kind of stuff. I don't really care. Like I mean, I just do what I do. I'm too busy to really get involved in personal politics. But I found it kind of annoying. You know, I tried to put this content out in the beginning, and I was just getting attacked after about 6 months of doing it. And, you know, it's like a dick measuring contest or something. And I was like, I don't really want to deal with this. So,
yeah. By the way, side note, can you guys see that picture I'm sharing right now?
Yeah.
This is a picture that I saw just this morning. Someone sent me the link to this, and I went to check it out. And sure enough, there it was on Tumblr. And this chick's literally like, times are tight right now. Should I let my landlord fuck me for a rental discount? Like, wow.
The longest fallback of all time for women.
Yep.
And when it doesn't work, then it's just another Me Too movement.
Yeah. Either that or something's wrong with you.
Well, actually, speaking of Me Too movement, I'm just going to jump in right here. I'm sorry if I'm cutting anyone's flow off, but I've got to say this before I forget. If more people start working from home, there's less and less opportunities for Me Too.
Very true.
Right? I don't think a lot of people have thought about that.
That's a good point.
Hammerhand's
talking, but we can't hear him. Hammerhand.
Sandman been doing that for years, man.
Yeah, I mean, I look at this situation as like people finally catching up to what I've been doing for 20 years. I started doing this in the .com days of like 99, 2000. So, I was working from home building websites. And now everyone's got my lifestyle, and I'm looking at this thinking to myself, well, who's going to be pumping the gas? So, oil is going to collapse. Like, oil is going to go down even further than it is. People aren't going to be driving. People aren't going to be getting lattes, McDonald's as much. You know, I think the whole economy that we've relied
Starbucks
on
is in trouble.
yeah, no, but Starbucks to some extent, people will still go hang out and get their lattes. But I think it's going to be more like the gas producers, shale producers. I think it'll be great for truckers because their gas prices will go down, so they can actually get stuff across the country for a lower price, and they'll actually see a boom in their income. I think that, but car dealers and manufacturers are going to be in trouble. So we have to start thinking about this. If it's going to be a work-at-home economy, then we have to start thinking about companies that produce laptops are going to do better, but companies that produce desktops are probably going to do worse. And you have to think about who's going to be affected, and then how to profit off of each one of those things and protect yourself by not buying into, oil companies that have dropped in some cases 80%. It might not be a good time to buy if, people don't go back to consuming oil the way that they once did. I don't know.
I agree. And also, by the way, I'd like to get Mr. Elite MGTOW, who's in the box right now. I'll get him to jump in and give his thoughts as well. Are you guys cool with that?
Yep. He actually was one of my roommates, man. He's pretty cool.
Oh, cool. All right. I'll bring him in now.
Sydney, you can take my spot. I've got to jump out because I've got some things I have to take care of as well.
Joker. Pleasure, brother. Thank you so much for coming.
See you later.
Appreciate it all, guys, and we'll talk
see
to
you,
on the
Joe.
flip side. Right on.
Later, bro.
I'm about 10 minutes extra as well. So
cool. We'll be wrapping this up shortly then anyway.
Yeah.
Well, before y'all leave, obviously I'm on. I want to say, gentlemen, shouts out to the MGTOW community and the brothers around the world. Thank you very much, guys, for doing this. This was a spectacular moment for all MGTOWs out there to see, and the Red Pill community. Guys, this was hard hitting content. This is very important stuff. We got to stick together through this, man. We got to have each other's back. Coach Greg Adams, man, you're doing great work. All of you guys are just doing great work, man.
Thanks, man.
Mike the MGTOW, man, Hammerhand, all of you guys, man, just rock solid brothers, man. And I love all you guys, man. So thank you very much, man.
Appreciate it, man. Thank you so much.
Good to see you, man.
Man, thank you very much.
Thank you.
All you guys.
So, look, guys, I think it's time to start winding it up because we've had a couple of people that have got to leave. I'm sorry, Mr. Elite, that we kind of put you right at the end. Yeah, I didn't know how long this was going to go for.
It's all good.
But what I wanted to do is give all of you guys, particularly, yourself, Hammerhand, Sandman, Coach Greg Adams,
New York's line.
whoever else is still in here. Yeah, that's basically it. Us out of the original 8.
Before everybody takes off, in terms of growing the MGTOW community, I think I don't know if you guys are aware of MGTOW.tv. I don't know if anyone's really been using that platform. Mm-hmm. Right now, Pop, myself, as well as TFM are on there, and we're getting some decent views. I'm getting close to 1,000 subscribers, and TFM's got well over that. Pop's going to get up to that probably the next few weeks. Mm-hmm. And it's a platform where we're not going to be kicked off of. And it's a platform that's probably going to be monetized in the next little while because we actually have the ability to serve ads and the ability to track them. So Alpha Male Lifestyle, he set this up, and he's been like, I've recruited a couple people for him. I recruited like the Portuguese MGTOW communities on there. So I'd suggest anybody start mirroring their content there, start uploading their content there, because as we add every new user, the platform grows. And he's also getting Manosphere.tv. That's another one he's going to set up. And then, so we'll have, and the quality of the videos is actually better than YouTube. So you can actually, if you upload full HD videos, you actually get really, really good quality streaming. Great. So that's something that I'd suggest everyone try to get into. Like, I talked to him, and, the idea was to get TFM and myself to go around and contact a bunch of people to get them to go on the platform. But I think it's better, like, we've got a huge audience of people here, and, might as well get them to go over and start an account, subscribe, and start using the platform. And the few creators that are listening to start actually uploading their content onto there. Because, again, I'm getting a couple hundred views a day for a new video. That's okay. That's not great. But it's better than, having my channel, destroyed by YouTube. I don't know if you guys are feeling this, but I'm getting completely throttled down. Like, I was getting 60, 70,000 views a day. Now I'm down to like 25, 30,000 views a day. So,
wow.
and that's been in less than a year, like 10 months. So I think we have to start looking at alternative places to kind of build an audience, because otherwise we're just not going to have an audience.
Yeah, I agree with you. That's a very, very, very good point. So yeah, guys, if you are a content creator right now, head on over to MGTOW TV. Now I am going to get each of you the left. So like Sandman, Coach, Self-Hammerhand, and I will give a quick spiel myself, but I've also got a friend of mine. His name is John, and I'd like to just briefly invite him in. He's actually the one who wrote that book that I showed you earlier, the one talking about how to be a man, what your father never taught you. So, John, I'm actually just going to take you off mute in a second. Bear with me. Hang on a sec. Do you want to be on?
Yes.
Okay. All right. So I can slide your sharing if you can see in there.
Can you take your microphone?
No, it's just the microphone here.
Okay.
It's just, you can talk.
Can you see me? Can you see me all? Hi and welcome.
Yeah.
I want to tell you, my dear friends, we're going into uncharted times. I have studied a lot of psychology. I'm not an expert, but banking down, be careful with your money. I've been working on a book for 12 years to help men because nobody was there to help me. And I called it How to Be a Man, What Your Father Never Taught You.
There we go. There we go.
How to Be a Man, What Your Father Never Taught You.
It's kind of hard. It's kind of hard. It's tricky shit.
There you go.
Hey.
I see his name.
Yeah. It's,
Anyway, the book is called How to Be a Man, What Your Father Never Taught You. And in this book, I mention nearly every aspect that we covered in this live talk. And I want to thank Sydney for allowing me to come onto this platform. A lot of guys don't understand that we need to save. And I've been saying this in my book for years. I cover every aspect. Now, I'd love to go. I'm not going to waste your time because you're all tired wherever you are in the world. So I'm just going to go quickly on what my book covers because a lot of men were going to need this content. Number one is manhood. What is a man? How to be a man? Women, relationships, and sex. Media manipulation and indoctrination by the movies. Health, food, and exercise, and why it's so important. Money, wealth, what you need to know, what the media and what you never taught at school. Value, what it is and why it's so important. How to overcome the biggest phenomena in our generation of depression and fear. Happiness and fulfillment, feminism, the real truth, family court and the consequences, police accusation, domestic violence, how to be social and build a great network, keep up, how to maintain your relationships, some of the rules that will save your life, sources and the resources. Now, I'm going to summarize like this, my dear friends. I personally believe that the Fed can print money to oblivion, but they cannot print gold and silver.
Nope.
Take from this what you like. I personally believe you shouldn't delve into the GLV and options. Get as much hands on gold and silver bullion, tangible resources, because when all this will be happen, we're going to have people chasing. We're going to go into deflation and then more than likely into inflation, and gold and silver will rock. I cannot tell you exactly how this is going to manifest because I don't have a crystal ball, but all I will say, look after your resources, be safe, and we need at these times to support one another. I'm not an expert what's going to happen, but we all need to support one another. I want to shout out to Sydney MGTOW that allowed me to come onto this platform, to every one of you that participated, and he's not only helping yourself like some selfish people, is helping all our fellow man prosper or at least survive. But please be careful on your money and be safe and be safe and be well. And remember, my dear friends, I'll finish with this. Better be safe than sorry. Protect yourself. Thank you very much for all of you to listen. And thank you.
Roger that. I will say this about the great state that I live in. The great state that I live in, there's a lot of gold up in them there hills. Okay? And these guys are up here gold panning and all that. They do that all the time. I mean, I got a buddy of mine that's got a couple of claims, and I go up and mess with it all the time. I'm not really into it yet, but I got some equipment, but you know, if I have to have the time to get up there and do it, I know how to do it because I'll just go to where they're doing it at on their claims, and man, just a little bit of gold dust adds up to an ounce. And guess what? You know whatever the market of an ounce of gold is right now is what it is, gentlemen. That's how we gotta. That's how he's exactly right. Gold, baby,
That's
gold.
it. Every little bit of progress
little
you
bit.
make, guys.
Every little bit of dust.
counts. And it's just not just gold dust. It's in terms of building your business. It's in terms of savings. It's in terms of investments. It's in terms of personal growth. It's in terms of fitness and strength and everything. Everything that builds you up. All the little bits add up to a lot. You know, and this is why it's so hard, because right now us guys, we're fed this, take this diet shake and you'll drop the kilos. It's like, no, work the fuck out. Like, get to work. You know what I mean? Don't bitch out. Don't be like, oh, you know what? I'm tired. It's like, yeah, I get that you're tired. That's the point. Keep working. Push harder. More reps.
In terms of gold and silver, I suggest everyone take a look at usdebtclock.org. It actually shows you what the price of gold and silver would be today if we had stayed on the 1913 gold standard. And if you look at silver today, if it was priced in $1913, it would be almost $2,000 an ounce. Wow. And if you look at gold, it would be priced at about $16,260 an ounce. And your buddy with the book, he was talking about the not actually owning the gold GLD and the actual ETFs. If you look at the number of paper out there, according to usdebtclock.org, for every ounce of gold that's out there, there are $175 worth of paper gold in terms of people owning the paper gold. So if that is proven to be a fraud, you can imagine what those 175 people are going to be doing when they find out that only one of them is going to get their gold, right? Or the silver. That's silver. It's 88.55 ratio per paper gold to physical gold. So not everyone's going to get it. So, if you have 10, 15 ounces, you could find yourself a millionaire in the next 2-3 years if the money supply completely crashes, like if the currency crashes. So don't discount the power of the money printers. They will print the currency into oblivion and give themselves all of it right up front to keep as much of the value as they can. So I think we have to really be careful about what's going on. And then right now, the gold and silver is hard to find, I know, but occasionally the dealers will get it. So just keep calling back your dealers and see if they get somebody brings it in. Because if the market goes down, what'll happen is it's actually on the main page. You can see that. So if you go to just get rid of everything after the slash. Oh, you're looking at gold demand. Oh, there it is. Yeah. So there you can see the ratios on the right-hand side. So this kind of gives you a picture of how screwed we are, because eventually the paper money situation will probably not be able to be papered over. But I wouldn't put it past the bankers to find another balance between inflation and deflation. And if they do that, if somehow they get this under control and it goes back to normal, the younger generations will be screwed. And then those younger generations will eventually revolt and it'll go to communism. That's pretty much my biggest fear at this point.
Well, the smart people will always rise to the top. That is the key. And the people who are aware of what's going on can navigate it better than other people can, even if everyone's in a shitty situation. So
I say have a little bit of cash, have a little bit of gold and silver, have a little bit of money like off to the side that you can invest in the market, have a little bit in property, have it everywhere, because you don't know what's going to happen. And anyone who tells you they know what's going to happen, they're lying. So you don't know what's going to happen. So just be careful. Don't put all your eggs in one basket, and kind of, if we head towards deflation, there might be some great opportunities to buy some properties outright, for cash. If the situation presents itself, then again, it might not. If we go through hyperinflation, then you want to go and take your money and buy perishable or non-perishable goods that you can store in your house, because the money will be worthless. But again, this stuff, like I can't give you an accurate picture. Nobody can. We just have to watch and see what happens. And if they can't control inflation, then we know what's going to happen.
That's it, man. That's it. So, Sandman, so while you're talking, because obviously we're wrapping this up, man, and I appreciate your insights on that. How can people support you if they want to support you?
Like I said earlier, just MGTOW.tv, go there. I would rather if people are going to listen to me, I'd rather them listen to me there than listen to me on YouTube.
Perfect. Cool. And Coach, how can people support you if they want to help you out? I want to hear that as well.
Yeah, I got the books. You know, I've tried to cover as much because I know how YouTube is, and they want to, you know, and I know how people are in general. They find ways to silence you so that you can't talk, all right, and your content's gone, and that's it. So I wrote 2 books, and this is the first one, De-Evolution, all right, and this talks about feminism, the history of feminism, and I mean, the book came out 6 weeks before we got into the situation, and it's basically saying we need to correct ourselves because we're out of alignment. Now, I mean, feminism is quiet, so this book will probably resurge a little bit later. Then, of course, the Free Agent Lifestyle, that was the first book, and this is more of a lifestyle of manhood. And for guys that are not comfortable going all the way off the cliff, this is a good philosophy to go by. But listen, find me on YouTube. You guys have been very supportive. Listen, I've been only doing this for 1.5 years, maybe 2 years, and I've done more consuming than I have done production. So a lot of the guys here, especially like Sandman, those are some of the people that I first found, Big John. And then trust me, I'm watching everybody as much as possible. And here's the deal. Some of you guys, I watch you on 2 times speed. So you guys sound like chipmunks when I watch you. But I love all of you brothers out here. Thanks for being here. And thanks for inviting me, man. Yes. Oh, yes. And be involved and be active on this YouTube channel, right?
And Hammerhand, man, you've been through some tough times recently. I just want a quick update on where things are at with the child support scenario. Hang on, can you talk up, man? I can't hear
you. I don't know that he's is he active?
He's talking, but we can't hear him.
Dang it.
Oh, hang on. I'm just going to unmute you there, Hammer. All right. You're off mute. Can you hear? And look, Hammer, we can't hear you, brother. But what I will do is I'll encourage all of you to go over and check out Hammerhand's channel. Look at his stuff in each of his in your next video, Hammer, if you can mention at the start on how people can support you off the back of this live stream, because I'd like you to be able to share that so other people can know. And just one last thing, I wanted to, well, I'll tell you guys, if you want to support me, paypal.me/SydneyMGTOW if you want to flick a donation. Alternatively, if you want to head on over to sydneymgtow.com/Brave, try out Brave browser instead of Chrome. It's got all the extensions and all the settings. I know you can also support Sandman in the same way, but obviously through his channel. So go and check out the descriptions of his. I've got Bitcoin and stuff, but I don't want to get too much into that. I did, however, want to ask one person in the chat as one of the primary donors of today's stream, and he just wants to mention something around what's going on with the Australian government right now. So I'm going to pass over to you just quickly so you can tell us what's going on.
Greetings, gentlemen. Really massive shout out quickly. I'm sorry, I know a lot of the folks in the box have said it, but Sandman, you're my first red pill. You're my bloody hero, brother. Coach Greg Adams, I love your work. Hammer, I'm feeling for you. Sydney, thank you for putting this together. What an amazing chat. Now, I just noticed in the news feed, this is a crack up, that the big announcement from the Australian government, this coronavirus turned us all into socialists plan, is they've ramped up $150 million to deal with domestic violence. Now, this is the Trojan horse in the room. Watch misandry be spun into the coronavirus narrative. Do any of you guys out there in the United States, are you hearing the same thing?
Yes. Yeah,
it's some bullshit.
Yep.
It's the Trojan horse in the room. I was waiting for it. So suddenly, truth or not, the government-funded agencies that are saying, they're always saying that men are violent and men are this and men are that, are now reporting in a week a 25 to 35% increase in domestic violence.
No, they're anticipating an increase, but
why
play straight arrow? Why not just change the goalposts to make it sound like it's something it's not?
Exactly. So they're anticipating it's not actually, I'm sorry, gentlemen, I misread the question. I misread the information. I was just like, no way. And all men need to be aware of this, that the Trojan horses are going to be led through the gates, and it's all going to come down to massive misandry, institutionalized, government-led misandry. Look after yourselves.
In fact, I'm on that note, because it's exactly what you're saying. I'm going to share this quick little thing from this particular individual. I'm going to screen share this just so you can see what I'm talking about here. Share screen. That's the one there. So can you guys all see this?
Yes.
So here we go. Marine Faruqi. She's a Greens senator for New South Wales. She's a feminist. She's an engineer, and she's also a migrant. I've got no issue with engineer or migrant. What I do have an issue with is the first bit. And here we go. Join the call to make sure no one is made homeless by the crisis. More women there. We've got call the Prime Minister, no national plan to protect renters. Like that, I guess those are not so much of an issue. But here we go. Profit and wealth accumulation at the expense of people on the planet has made workers and all ordinary people vulnerable to health and economic consequences. So she's ranting on about capitalism there. And here is, here we go. It's a gendered crisis. Nurses, nurse aides, teachers, child carers, and early childhood educators, aged care workers, and cleaners are mostly women. They're on the front line of the crisis and carry a disproportionate risk of being exposed, even though more men have died from it. And here it is, right here. Women's advocates and domestic violence experts have been warning us that domestic abuse increases during times of crisis. I'm terribly worried that these warnings have not been heeded by the government that's long resisted adequate funding. Now, I'm sorry, warnings that it may increase? Like, what are you going to do? Kick all men out of their house?
She didn't say domestic violence against whom. Okay, because the emotional abuse that men are going through, that's domestic violence on itself, but men don't report it. So she just said domestic violence is going to go up. But what men need to do is be more proactive. If their woman starts nagging them and bitching and complaining and getting in their face and confronting them and telling them they're not crap because they got laid off, they need to report that as domestic violence. But see, guys don't do that. We don't run to the government. We don't. But at the end of the day, we get exposed.
This is my little tinfoil hat conspiracy, okay? It's just weird how, they do these hashtags like the future is female, the future is female. Suddenly, there's this disease killing primarily men. And what do women do? They're doing the same thing they do in arguments. They're changing the subject so you forget what's actually going on. That's all they're doing.
Correct.
So,
I know it's so true.
The future's female. They always said the future's female. Now, like I said, there's a virus killing mostly men. Let's give the podium back to the women, though. Let's let them get back to the podium. It's just insane. Men dying.
Well, going after what Coach Greg Adams said, my son's 24. Just recently went through a domestic dispute where he called the police and he ended up going to jail. I talked about this in a couple of my videos, and this is why, but this is why men don't primarily call, because they're afraid they're going to be the ones that go to jail anyway. So I don't know how we're going to be able to stop that powerhouse of men always being the ones, getting into trouble, even though you're the ones, being proactive and calling to try to break up the situation. It's heavy. It's heavy.
And a lot of times the cops will say, "What did you do?" That's how the cops start out these situations. They want to know what you did automatically. Like you're automatically the villain.
Yep. So. Exactly.
Yep. So now the feminist Larissa Waters, she's another Greens senator in our parliament, right alongside that nut job, Sarah Hanson-Young, and that lady I just showed you, Dr. Marine Faruqi, right? Now, Larissa Waters said, and it's on the screen share here, this coronavirus is actually ScoMo, who is it's a slang term for our Prime Minister. This coronavirus is actually ScoMo's revenge. We didn't shake his hand. Now nobody can shake hands. We didn't like him having an overseas holiday. Now nobody can have an overseas holiday. We called him an arsehole. Now nobody can wipe their arseholes. Now, she went and deleted that, but that just shows the level of childishness.
Yeah, agreed.
So,
agreed.
But yeah, I mean, as Forrest Gump would say, that's all I got to say about that.
That's all I gotta say about that.
You got Pelosi. You got fucking Nancy Pelosi sitting there sneaking in green deals and shit. It's like, this is why we don't need female politicians. Even if there was liberals, men and stuff on the right, I don't think they would have been the ones trying to cram this green shit. It was all those damn bitches that wear the white every time to symbolize their feminism and shit.
Oh yeah,
always
purity
white gowns. You know what's interesting? The last time we seen a group of people wearing white, they were the KKK. But the feminists, they can put on these little white gowns, white hoods and shit, and go up into these government buildings when they're supposed to be doing the fucking job, and then they want to cram these green deals in, like we're supposed to just take it, and then they cry victim when nothing passes. Like this is why we don't Nancy Pelosi is a prime example why we don't let women into office. Like, imagine if Hillary was president right now, how slow that response would have been. They would have been like, let's not close the gates, for China. Let's just let them in, keep letting them in, because I'm telling you, it would have been a lot worse. Like I'm being honest. Like, I'm looking at this thing like it could have been. It's bad, but it could have been a lot worse.
Well, these fuckers were calling for open borders during this crisis.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
That race card in order to keep the fucking gates open, saying, "Oh, if you're shutting down trade to China, you're being racist." Like, what? That doesn't make any sense.
Did you guys see what Justin Skippy Trudeau is doing over here?
Oh God, tell me.
He's doubling our carbon taxes. So the government's like, well, we're losing money. We're not making, people aren't buying gas. So where's our tax money? So let's just double the tax we take. Yeah, they're going to make more money now off this tax grab than if you want to kill your economy completely, that's a great idea, right?
That guy's going to end up in a ditch.
He's not. He's going to end up with the Nobel Peace Prize, standing there next to Obama.
Right,
that's what's going to happen.
Well, did you notice that Meghan Markle has bounced from Canada and gone straight to California?
Of course. Why would you? They probably wanted to tax the money she stole from her husband and his family. So
apparently the divorce laws weren't favorable enough for her in Canada.
Oh, yeah.
Guys,
California was it 10 years?
That was the plan all along. That was the plan
she puts
for her
in
all
fucking
along.
10. There you go.
Yep.
She puts in 10. She's got the royal fortune.
Yep.
And now she's putting the pressure on him. Like, you've got to step up right now. It's like, hey, like, you need to back up a second because you're telling me to step up. Like, you were the one that wanted to go to Canada. Now you're the one that wants to go to California. You're the one that didn't want to be a royal anymore. And now you're going to put this on me? Like, man, if I was him, I'll be like, whoosh, you know what I mean?
He needs to fucking jet.
100% he does.
Yep. All right, guys, I'm out of here.
She's trading her cooch jewels for crown jewels. That's what it's all about.
Nice to see you, Coach. Thank you for stopping in.
Absolutely.
Guys, man, thank you so much to absolutely everybody. I appreciate you all. I will catch you in the next one.
I wanted to do a quick outro real quick. So from time to time, I do accept GoFundMe, but that's not what I want to do on my channel right now because I was going to do a protest against YouTube. Well, that's going to be put off. So I would ask, like, the only way to support my channel right now would be to, let's all give each other shout outs. Whoever was in this chat today, let's give everybody a shout out for this chat and share the links to this chat in a future video this week so we can show everybody that we're going to be bigger and better and stronger than ever before despite this fucking virus and this pandemic because we have been preparing for the collapse for quite some time. So let's, give everybody shout outs and things like that. And let's just be bigger than we were last year. Let's make this let's make lemonade basically is what I'm trying to say.
Absolutely. Well, look, I'm going to leave that up to each of the individual content creators, but I think that's not a bad idea. And I will be doing something of the sort. I have recorded this particular session, so I'll be sharing this with each of the individual creators. If you want to put that on your YouTube channel, go for it. If there's anyone who objects, who is in these videos, please let us know, but I don't think there should be any issues.
Cool.
Y'all see that?
Thank you for hosting, brother.
Y'all see that on my forehead, right? Y'all see that on my forehead. You see that? It's in my blood. It's in my blood. I can't help it.
That's the anger snake, boy. That's the anger snake.
That's that MGTOW sign right there. Bam. Thanks, guys.
We'll see you later, man.
See ya.
See you later.
Bye.
Peace.